Are we live? Looks like we're live. Maybe.
Yeah, it looks like we're live. Looks like we are. I see the live thing up at the top.
Just check.
Hello, everybody.
Is it? Can anybody see what we are live? Here we go. Okay, great. Amazing. I am here with the great Atunshai Films, aka. Can I use your normal name? Can I use your human name?
Sure. I mean, I put it in the Riverside thing, so I would hope.
You put it up there anyway. You put it up there.
It's not a secret.
Atunshai is a real human being. He isn't a Confederate general. And yeah, here he is.
Not in this life.
Rakic,
How's it going? Rakic. Yeah.
Rakic.
Yeah.
Where's that from?
Rakic. Serbian.
That's Serbian. Ah, nice.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Half Serbian. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, well,
So
it's great. It's great to have. I appreciate you having me on, Pete. And also, I just want to say, just first thing now that we're live is, I don't think I've ever actually told you this, kind of in our email correspondence or whatever. But you were actually a big inspiration to me, like in your early work for starting a YouTube channel.
that's
Because
crazy.
I
Man.
would
That's
watch
insane.
like old like History Time stuff, like 10 years ago when I was an underemployed, French Quarter alcoholic here in New Orleans, and
Wow. I don't know
and
what
be
to say
like,
to
oh
that,
man,
man.
this is like really amazing. I could do something like this.
That's so cool. I love that. I love that because the exact same thing happened to me. I was watching a load of channels as well in like 2016, and that's why I started my channel.
Yeah,
Yeah. Oh, isn't
it's
life
pretty much.
weird?
It is weird. It's all one gigantic circle jerk.
Yeah, yeah. Because then
It's
we've
of
sort of just.
history, YouTube.
I don't even know how we got introduced to each other. I suppose maybe Stefan, possibly through Stefan,
Yeah,
or
yeah. I think through
maybe
Stefan, and I know
World of
we emailed back and
Antiquity. I
forth.
know you've done things with
Yeah,
him.
yeah,
You've done
yeah.
things
No,
with history with Sai as well.
yeah, yeah, oh, yes, that's great. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a lot of it was just like doing little voiceovers and stuff for each other too. I mean, you
Yes.
voiced, you did a couple quite long actually voiceovers for me,
Pretty
which I
long.
appreciate. Yeah,
And then
it was
I
like,
had a breakdown. I couldn't do the last one. You had to get somebody else to come and do it. But I did one at least. I think
it's
Stefan
fine,
did
it's
one.
fine.
I did one,
Yeah,
and then
Stefan did one. Yeah,
somebody else did the third one. They're
yeah,
nice.
yeah,
Though.
yeah,
They're
yeah.
nice. Like, are they? Was that sort of like leftover footage from your movie?
No. I went out and to Middlesex County, Massachusetts, which is where I grew up and where the town of Sudbury is, which the documentary is about. And just over the course of a summer, I think I was just visiting family for like a few weeks. Like I was up there for a while. I would just go over to the Sudbury River Valley, which is kind of where the whatever the settlement was, and get a bunch of footage. And then I was just like, oh, I was out there for like days and days and days. I was like shooting these 12-hour days. Surely I've got enough footage for like this whole 2-hour like documentary, because it wasn't going to be 3 episodes originally. Birth of an American Town, it was going to be just like a movie basically.
Yeah.
And but then I started editing the first episode, and I like ran out of footage about 80% of the way through, and I was like, oh fuck. So then that became like a just a year-long project.
Nice. Love it. You live in a really interesting place. I mean, obviously I live in a place where we've got thousands of years of history. We've got Romans and all this,
Sure.
Normans, Anglo-Saxons, etc., etc. But, I love indigenous American history, and then I love sort of the weird, I mean, it's weird to me anyway, the 17th century sort of puritanical stuff. I'm sure
Yeah.
you find it weird as well. Clearly
Yeah.
it interests you. You made a whole movie about it.
Absolutely. Yeah,
So
absolutely.
yeah, and for me, it's all a bit. I don't know. It's all a bit Lovecraftian. I don't know. It's sort of like it's all a bit. It's all a bit strange. And Massachusetts, it's just got this allure to me.
Yeah, absolutely.
What was it like growing? Was it just normal growing up in Massachusetts, or is there
Yeah, it
this
was pretty.
sense where there's this
I
history to
know
the
it was
place?
it was no. There's definitely a sense of history, but no, it's a great place to grow up. I mean, the quality of life is like some of the best. It's some of like the best public services in like
Anywhere.
some of the best public schools in like the Western world. You know what I mean? It's like it is
Yeah.
legitimately one of the highest quality of life in like America. So no,
Yeah.
I'm like very lucky that I grew up in Massachusetts. But yeah, I mean, it was just kind of, I mean, it was boring. It was a small town in the exurbs. It was kind of just boring. But tragically, I didn't really like fully appreciate the history of that place until I left. So that
That's
was like
often the
very
way.
sad. And it was, yeah. So that was kind of just like, oh fuck, yeah.
But now that you've left, you've got this obsession with it. I feel.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Pretty much. Yeah.
But if I understand, you moved to New Orleans,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
is
I moved
another
to New Orleans and
place in the US with some crazy history as well.
totally. Well, yeah, you mentioned sort of North American indigenous history, and yeah, I mean Louisiana's got that in spades. The
Oh yeah,
megalithic, structures here, Poverty
yeah,
Point.
yeah.
Oh God, why am I forgetting this? Not Cane Break. Watson
Watson
Break. The
Break,
like
yeah,
it's like
even
five
earlier, yeah,
thousand years old.
yeah,
Yeah, just like crazy,
insane.
crazy. Unfortunately, not Poverty Point is kind of an exception that it's like pretty well preserved. A lot of it is not well preserved. But yeah, I mean, the lower Mississippi was, I mean, it's one of the great cradles of civilization,
Yeah,
and kind of what we know about sort of the various cultures that were here is not very much,
yeah.
really. Honestly, it's like not
No,
a
no,
very
no.
good picture that we have, which is sort of
It's
unfortunate. But
it's one of these great shames because it's purely archaeology. There's, the
yeah,
history is lost. The actual stories are lost, very sadly.
yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
That's cool, man. Yeah. I can't believe that you were watching my channel back in the day. It's such a surreal sort of thing. Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
good.
yeah. I
I'm
mean,
glad that yeah, I'm glad that made you happy.
yeah. I mean, yeah. Yeah, cool, man. You were a tour guide.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I was a tour guide at Gettysburg and Gettysburg
Nice,
Battlefield, and then here in New Orleans for a number of years. Yeah.
nice,
Yeah.
man. Oh, somebody says my mic volume is low.
Mm.
Is my
I
mic
mean, it
volume
sounds
low?
okay to me, but I might not. You know,
Looks okay to me.
maybe I'm wrong.
Oh no.
So,
I've pressed a button. I don't know. Okay. Sorry, you
oh
carry
no,
on talking as I just
no.
try and
Well, I wanted to ask. I mean, sort of.
navigate this.
So I mean, yeah, I mean, you mentioned, it's kind of starting around like 2016 and
Yeah.
stuff, and I mean, I started watching you. I mean, I think that you maybe had like 100,000 subscribers. I mean, you seemed to take off pretty quickly because I was watching you in like 2018 or something. Obviously, you weren't kind of at the heights that you are now, but it was a pretty sizable channel. Kind of what sort of how did you kind of get started with history YouTube, and what was kind of your background in that sense?
Well, I'm primarily a writer, so I was writing like crazy,
Mm.
and I essentially just turned a load of my history articles into videos. So
Yeah.
for some reason, I went mental, and I decided to just write one history article every single day for an entire year. So
Mm.
then, after that year, I had 365 history articles, and I was like, "What can I do with these now? Okay, I'll turn them into videos."
That's deranged. Yeah.
It was deranged. Yeah, it was insane. I don't know. I went mental in my 20s. I thought, because I just really wanted a job in history, and I
Sure.
all the jobs I was going for, it was all volunteer stuff. So I was like, you know
Yeah.
what?
Yeah.
I may as well get something on my CV and build a blog, and then get a job, in the heritage field, tour guide, something
Mm.
like this, or in an archive.
Totally.
But then the thing that was going to be on my CV became the actual job somehow.
Mm.
Yeah, very strange. Yeah, I had no intention of becoming a YouTuber. I had no intention of
No.
making videos. It was just, to be honest, I think my girlfriend at the time, my wife now, she said, "Why don't you turn these into videos? Because that's actually a way that people might look at them."
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
people don't read that much
Kind of.
anymore. They do read
No,
a bit,
no. I mean,
but
yeah.
you know,
I mean, yeah. I mean, they didn't even in 2016, really. I mean, it's
not really, not really.
yeah, not really. And it's like, no. I mean, it's very similar for me, man. It was just sort of like, because I mean, it's like you. I'm not kind of primarily a historian. I'm a filmmaker, so it was sort of just like, oh, how where do people watch like low budget movies? Like, oh, fucking YouTube.
Yeah,
So I'll just like
yeah,
start posting
yeah.
there just about stuff that I'm interested in. It was a very similar thing. I just started
That's
like
it.
filming my tour stops from my like New Orleans like super poppy edutainment ghost tour.
Yeah.
And it was just like, oh, these are kind of entertaining, and I've like been honing them for a while, and so but that's it's kind of how it started.
So it was just to sort of throw something at the wall, see what sticks. I mean, it's
Yeah.
worked. Your films
Yeah.
look amazing. The special effects.
Thank you, dude. Thank you.
I'm always blown away.
Thank,
Whenever
thank you.
you're he's not Hitler, is he? But he's your Nazi guy. Whenever he's on screen,
Yeah, yeah,
something
yeah.
crazy is going to happen here. His face melts off or something. It all goes very like
Yeah.
Indiana Jones.
Or he whips out the lightsaber. Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well,
looks
speaking
amazing,
of
man.
movies, should we talk about
Let's-
some? Should
let's
we,
go
should
for
we,
it.
Should
Let's
we
go
start to
for
get
it.
into this? Yeah, yeah.
I've got my Wicker Man T-shirt on.
Oh,
We're
hell
obviously-
yeah!
we're not
Oh,
gonna-
nice.
I'm not going to talk about that because it's not strictly a historical movie, I
historical
suppose.
movie, but you know,
You could say it
we
is,
could
but,
still we could still worship the mad god who lives in the woods. You know, we can. Yeah,
yes,
I'm actually wearing
we
my
certainly do. Oh, yes.
my crew hoodie from Sudbury Devil. I would have, you know, I should have thought about it. I should have worn my crew T-shirt from my new movie, The Vampires of New Orleans. But we'll probably talk about Sudbury Devil.
We
And
can talk about that
won't
for
talk about
sure.
that
We
one,
can
but
talk about that for sure. Yeah. Well, you know, not to shower you with too much praise or anything like this and get all sycophantic and weird, but I have picked The
No, don't
Sudbury
do that.
Devil as one of my
Oh, really?
films because
Stop!
I watched it.
Stop, Pete! Oh
Yeah,
my God!
I know.
That's
I watched
mortifying.
it yesterday. I watched it yesterday. It's fresh in my mind.
Sure,
And,
sure.
I've wrote down. I really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed it. I've
Thank
written
you,
down
dude. Thank you. That's very sweet.
written down some little points and some little questions that I can ask you because you know I'm always reading weird things into films and I've probably read something completely different into the film than you intended. So I'm interested. There's probably going to be spoilers, to be honest, but you know. Everybody should watch The Sudbury Devil.
Yeah, it's been out for 3 years, and yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
But
exactly,
yeah.
exactly.
Watch my movie for sure.
Exactly. But as you are the guest, I will allow you to go first.
Yeah, should I start?
We picked 5 films each. We're going to discuss them. You know, we're not film critics, but we'll give it our best go.
Yes, but we are opinionated, and
We're opinionated, I think. Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
And I hope that we have some conflicting opinions. I mean, that'll be fun.
Yeah, no, that would be fun. So, I haven't picked like my favorite historical films, but I have picked some of the ones that have like really stuck with me recently, or that I've kind of been thinking a lot about. And I also sort of, you know, and I know I told you this, Pete, but just so people watching know, like, kind of, I picked ones that are. That would provoke discussion, you know what I mean? That I thought would be like interesting to talk about, and that isn't just like, you know, or it isn't a discussion everybody's heard 1,000 times, like, you know, Braveheart or Gladiator or whatever, you know.
Yeah, of course, man, of course. I was so close to picking Gladiator, I had to change last minute.
But the first one that I want to talk about is called The Remains of the Day. Have you ever seen this movie, Pete? The Remains of the Day?
Do you know what? I really should have seen this movie because it's Anthony Hopkins and it's regarded as a very, very good film. I know of the book. It's by guy with the Japanese name who's actually British.
Yeah, Japanese author. Yeah. I don't quite remember his name either.
Never Let Me Go and a bunch of other things. Great author.
Yeah.
So I vaguely know the story, but I haven't seen the film.
Yeah, I mean it's Anthony Hopkins' best performance. Like which is obviously you don't say that lightly, right? I mean it is like a phenomenal performance, like a truly like, you know, career defining performance. But basically, Remains of the Day, it's based on a novel by a Japanese author, and it's basically Anthony Hopkins plays a butler in the 1930s in the south of England, who is serving this lord named Lord Darlington, who is essentially a fascist sympathizer. And it's all about the kind of perspective of the help, but sort of more than that, it's about sort of like what's expected of a butler or of a servant that kind of involves like completely sort of shutting out your own judgment and your own personality and your own feelings, like not only out of your work but out of your life completely, right? Because I mean this is like the era, kind of the Downton Abbey era, where people, you know, where the help would kind of like they would be living in the house, right, like with their, you know, employers and stuff like that. So this was really like in a lot of ways like service was kind of their lives. It wasn't just like a career, it was everything. And so Anthony Hopkins is just so emotionally constipated throughout this entire movie, and it is just like the most thrilling, like, you know, sort of, what's the word, kind of transfixing, like riveting shit ever. And of course, kind of eventually sort of it reaches sort of, you know, politics, like the politics of the rise of fascism and of fascism and of like the 1930s, you know, and the lead up to World War II starts to kind of intrude on this butler's little world. And like Lord Darlington invites, you know, these Nazis to the you know, to the house, and Emma Thompson plays like the head of the maids, and she's sort of asking him, you know, it's you know, like the Lord is like dismisses these 2 refugee maids because they're Jewish, and it's just like, well, I've read up about these things, and Mr. Stevens, I have to tell you, they're Jews, you know, and it's sort of this like very, and he's just like, well, yes, sir, you know, and Emma Thompson says like, well, what do you think about that? And Anthony Hopkins says like, well, it's not my job to like have an opinion, right? It's like not, you know, and so there's this really, I think, profound thing is happening in this movie about how it's sort of the sort of how evil kind of happens, how authoritarians come to power, how this sort of, how us sort of as sort of non, sort of the people who are not sort of on top of the heap, right? By them kind of knowing their place and just not wanting to get involved. That's sort of how these sort of great evils are sort of, kind of come to the fore and take power and are sort of allowed to flourish, and kind of obviously beyond that, it's like nobody can do emotional repression quite like the British, and obviously no one can do emotional repression quite like the Japanese. So to have a Japanese author sort of commenting on British emotional repression is just this perfect storm of things, and it's a phenomenal movie. I stumbled across it on Tubi maybe like 3 months ago, and I've watched it like 5 times since. I'm obsessed with this movie. It's a Merchant Ivory film, so Merchant. James Merchant and Tasman Ivory, I think, I don't quite remember that, or James Ivory and Tasman Merchant were these at the time closeted gay couple of filmmakers. One was a director, the other was a producer, and they made a number of these sorts of like E.M. Forster adaptations and a number of these sorts of movies that were kind of like these kind of drawing room kind of period films, and I've been, I've been obsessed with their work as well. But yeah, just highly recommended, and I think it really captures 1930s England and kind of the political and social kind of factors at play really excellently.
And the reality of it, I suppose, because I know that the author, I mean, he moved to England when he was a child, I believe. So he's able to look at England from the outside a little bit and see it sort of as it really is. Because there's this sort of, like wistful twinkle in the eye sort of thing that a lot of people look back at this sort of period of English history with, and a lot of it's bullshit, really. Because
Sure.
1930s, we very nearly allied with Nazi Germany. It very nearly happened. Could have happened. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes. I thought I'd just put on some generic Anthony Hopkins as we chat.
I think it's very helpful. It's nice to have.
I did have the advert for Remains of the Day on there. Yeah.
Yeah. No. And now some cat food. No. But it's a great. It's a great film, and really all the Merchant Ivory movies have some like they kind of vary in quality. It's interesting because there's sort of this like it's kind of this like very broadshead revisited type of thing, because they do like a lot of early 20th century sort of British aristocratic stuff, and it's like always in these fucking movies, it's always like the most emotionally repressed society in the world, but like but then there's this sort of like in every single movie these like when it's like this expectation that if you're an aristocratic British man and you go to Oxford, you're gonna fuck a dude.
Oh yeah.
It's like 100%. It happens in all these movies.
Oh, 100%.
It's like,
yeah.
It's like you're gonna have a really intense homoerotic relationship with some dude at Oxford. It's like
or get fucked by a dude. Yeah, exactly.
And that's just something that happens. Instead of quietly accepted.
Never change. Yeah. Some things never change for sure. It seems to be baked into that whole private school system.
I think so. Yeah.
From everything that I've heard. Yeah. Yes, and it's an interesting time period, the 1930s. Very interesting time period. And there's these weird parallels with today, which is quite unsettling.
Absolutely,
there's this sense that coming storm sort of feeling, atmosphere. Ever so slightly worrying. Yeah. Hopefully we can avoid. Hopefully we can avoid World War III. But yes, not so. Yeah, we don't know. We don't know. What else can we say about the remains of the day? I mean, you've summed it up very eloquently there.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess just I would, oh my God, there's an amazing scene, Pete. Oh my God, there's an amazing. Speaking of emotional repression, there's an amazing Hugh Grant scene in this. So basically, Hugh Grant is Lord Darlington's godson, and he's like a 30-year-old man who lives in London, and he's a journalist, and he's like this very cosmopolitan dude. But Lord Darlington somehow thinks that Hugh Grant doesn't know, he's about to get married, and Lord Darlington somehow thinks that this 30-year-old man doesn't know what sex is, but he feels so uncomfortable about talking to him about it that he tries to sick Anthony Hopkins on him. He's just like, I'll ask you, can I ask you a favor, Mr. Stevens? Talk about the birds, the bees, and so on. It's all rather awkward. I would talk to him myself, but I jolly well don't know how to get the conversation going. And then Anthony Hopkins just has this disastrous attempt to explain sex to this 30-year-old man who clearly already has had sex with several women. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Absolutely.
This hysterical scene. But yeah, again, it's that sort of that wonderful British emotional constipation that really
100%.
kind of just pervades the whole film, and also just great cinematography, very, very great locations, right? Phenomenal architecture in the buildings, and Christopher Reeve plays an American senator who shows up to the state dinner, and he's the sole voice of reason, kind of talking about everybody's just oh, these Germans, well, they're fine fellows, and Christopher Reeve kind of stands up and is just I don't know about this, So it's a great movie. So yeah, I highly recommend it. It's free on Tubi. Check it out.
You got the Americans being the heroes a little bit, standing up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah,
cool, man. You were very right about the British being emotionally repressed, and the Japanese being. What is it about island nations?
Island
nations being emotionally repressed for some reason. We don't want anybody else to come onto our islands, and we want to stay on our islands and hide away from the world.
Well, no, quite famously they don't. But
yes, true. We don't want anybody to come onto our island. We'll go onto other people's islands.
Onto other. I think that's the expression of the emotion. I think that's how it comes out is murdering everyone else.
Yes. I think that's a fair point. I think
the island nations deal with their feelings.
Yeah. Just attack everybody else and take on the entire world. Absolutely. Well, I mean, speaking of attacking everyone else and violence, let's talk about the Sudbury Devil. I'm watching this film and I'm like, Aleister Crowley, the occultist from the early 20th century, he'd love this film. I'm watching this and I'm like, oh yes, we've got...
It's a phenomenal compliment, yeah.
Blood magic, lots of masturbation. What else was there? Sort of psychedelic things going on as well. Where did it all come from? Where did you come up with the idea for all these things? You've been working on this for a long time before it was made?
Yeah, it was yes, I was actually. So it germinated from an idea that I had in film school, actually. I kind of always wanted to do something in this period, specifically around King Philip's War, It's one of my great historical passions, King Philip's War. This for those people who maybe haven't seen my videos on it or don't know, it's this sort of very kind of unheard of, but extremely consequential and bloody and brutal war in New England between indigenous nations and English colonists. That basically ended with the extermination and the genocide of most indigenous groups in southern New England. And kind of set the tone for sort of westward expansion, for the next 200 plus years. So I wanted to do, I really loved this language. I always, very much kind of a theater kid in high school, and I really loved Shakespeare, really loved the language of it, really loved that kind of early modern cadence. So really kind of what I wanted to do was sort of make a film with early modern English kind of set in this little sort of niche period of history that not many people knew about. And I wrote a screenplay in college that was kind of a ghost story set in King Philip's War, but there were huge battles and, huge crowd scenes. And, it was this gigantic movie that, could never afford to make now.
Maybe one day, but yeah.
Maybe one day. Maybe one day. So... And then it kind of went from there, and then in 2019 wrote the screenplay that would become the Sudbury Devil. I wrote the Sudbury Devil, and kind of sort of turned it from a ghost story to a witchcraft story. And then sort of we were gonna shoot it in 2020, but we got delayed by COVID. And so kind of at some point in 2021, that's when kind of the more sort of psychedelic and kind of anti-colonial kind of sort of ideas around it kind of coalesced. from sort of I've talked about this in a couple interviews, but from sort of a very consequential acid trip that I had on Mackinac Island in Michigan.
Nice.
Basically, sort of just thinking like, what the fuck have we done to this continent? And yeah, kind of went from there, and and yeah, sort of was able to kind of get together some of the best actors that I've ever worked with, and some dear friends and colleagues who I've just been itching to make a movie with. Some of them, since college. Some of them I've known since high school. It was very much kind of a dream team that came together and made this little movie. And yeah, very proud of it. Very proud of how well it's done. For
Amazing.
a movie of this size, that it's been able to reach so many people, and has been a real dream come true.
Amazing. That's yeah, very happy for you that you've been able to make this film. It's quite a compact group of actors, but it's nice because there's not that many characters. Because to be honest, all the things that are going on are there's a lot going on. There's lots of different complex things happening, and I'm watching it and I'm thinking, to be honest, what the hell's going on? But I love that in a film, and I love that it's firing off many different things in my mind, because I'm thinking, I should probably say, I'm going to end up saying some spoilers. So sorry to anyone who hasn't watched the film, but it's a great film. I'm watching it and I'm thinking, is it Satan, or is it a witch, or is it African magic? Is it, are they all just high on like ergot or, magic mushrooms or something?
Yeah.
Yeah. What was I going to say?
And then you never really know.
You never really know. You never really know. But that's what I was going to say. Great ending, though. Great ending. Yeah, really like the ending. I won't ruin the ending.
Because for us, it was all about the characters, man. It was all about the characters, and and the theme. And it was kind of, that's sort of the was sort of from the beginning. We were like, this is going to be like the performances are going to be the star of this movie.
Absolutely.
It's going to be a movie about character, and because sort of you got to overcome budgetary limitations, and if you're making a movie for pennies, and you it's like you got to find a way in, you got to find something about it that you can really make sing, and for that it was like, well, we have these incredible actors, and we know that they can like really deliver these performances and make these characters come alive. So that's what we really focused on,
This shot here that I've got on screen, I don't know if you can see my screen, the three guys sort of limping into the woods. This for me was just sort of representative of the Europeans in America, because it's just sort of like limping along, been absolutely fucked up in this war they've just fought to absolutely just genocide the natives. Still there, and this is kind of the beginning of the film. You feel like it's post-apocalyptic in a way. You feel like it's something bad has just happened, and everyone's sort of coming to terms with it. Everyone's fucked up in some way. One guy's lost his eye, one guy's lost his arm, the other guy's limping. And you just have this sense of unease. And I think, obviously the music and the way it's shot and everything helps all that. But yeah, right from the beginning, something horrible has happened here, and you're right, because something horrible had happened. What is King Philip's War? Did it drive all of the indigenous people out from the area, pretty much?
Pretty much. Like, it's a lot of the enslaved people went to the Caribbean, so they were sold off to like sugar plantations in Barbados and stuff. Yeah, exactly. But basically it was sort of either an extermination, a relocation, or an enslavement of like pretty much everybody, all the indigenous population who weren't like Christian. Even so, kind of like sort of the a lot of the sort of the Christian populations, kind of the praying Indians as they're called, were kind of incorporated into sort of Anglo-American society, and kind of went on to do a lot of interesting kind of things throughout New England history. For example, like the Wampanoag on Nantucket kind of became a really big part of the whaling industry, kind of around sort of Moby Dick time, kind of the sort of early 19th century and stuff. So, so they weren't gone, but they were no longer any kind of like political polity, right? Their culture was gone, their political power was gone, their community was gone, their economy was gone, right? So, like, if it was a genocide, right? So, yeah,
their entire world has gone pretty much, and the only way they can survive is through living in the Western world, the European world. Yeah, absolutely. what were my other points? I've written down a load of points. I wrote down some quotes as well. What's the one quote?
Mm.
I want you to say it in the accent.
Are we going to see your private
Bloody
messages?
Sudbury and this damned wood.
Bloody Sudbury and this damned wood.
Yeah, great line. Great line.
Yeah. No, that's Benton Guinness, one of my favorite actors in the world, and a dear friend of mine, playing John Fletcher. He, he really that act. I mean, his, everybody killed it with the accent, which was not an easy accent to learn. The sort of, historically accurate 17th century accent, original pronunciation that we used in this film. Very hard to learn, but
question: how do we know the accent? How do we know that is the accent?
So we know it with a reasonable degree of certainty because basically linguists have kind of reconstructed it based on context clues, right? So a lot of it has to do with like rhyme. If you like look at poetry of the era, and it's like things rhyme, some certain words like rhyme in those in the 17th century that like don't rhyme today. So clearly they like said it in a different way. There were some like pronunciation guides and stuff that sort of give us kind of limited like guides for like school children and stuff there how to like speak properly, and all that. Obviously kind of it is an approximation, and it's sort of original pronunciation specifically was formulated by David Crystal and Ben Crystal, this father and son team. One is a linguist and another is a Shakespeare scholar. And basically, so they were really going after like Shakespeare and the King James Bible. So and the reason that we used it, even though we're in New England, 80 years after this period, was basically because there's lots of resources for it for actors, right? Because there's been a ton of like plays done in the original pronunciation, like Shakespeare plays, right? So like a lot of dialect coaches have resources about it. So that was kind of just it's a good approximation, but probably what original pronunciation like really is like early 17th century London.
Okay.
Because obviously that's Shakespeare was dealing with. That's what the King James Bible would have been dealing with, and like most of the and when sort of they were writing these pronunciation guides saying like you need to speak properly, it wouldn't have been whatever they were doing in Suffolk or East Anglia. You know what I mean? It wasn't like these regional kind of rural accents. It was like the proper accent of the court. So that was kind of that's kind of what you hear in the Sudbury Devil. Now to be sort of, I will say this is the most accurate 17th century pronunciation that has ever been put on film, if I dare say so myself. However, it would be more accurate for us to basically have done like what the Puritans more accurately would have spoke is something like kind of a corrupted East Anglian accent. It's like more what they would have been speaking at this time. Like
I was just
America.
thinking that actually, because London, today is very different to East Anglia, and the closer you get to the coasts of England, the further the accent sort of turns into a bit of a drawl.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Combine harvester.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like Hot Fuzz,
Yes, exactly like Hot Fuzz. Exactly.
That's
the exact accent. Yeah. So really, they should have sounded a bit like that, but that would have been quite difficult, I think, to watch and difficult to do the accent. Yeah. No, it's good. It's a great effort to actually, because it's so often we have, for example, I don't know, you'll have a Roman senator with just a full-on American accent, and you're like, what's going on here? Yeah. Or more accurately, the
British,
the bad guy British redcoat who's got the very posh modern accent.
Exactly. Yeah, precisely. No, it's definitely like I think there's and it's interesting because I attempted to learn. It was sort of, to be honest, it was harder because there's sort of like only one guy who really does it. And he's kind of still figuring it out. But there's a dialects coach up in Massachusetts who's, made a real effort to reconstruct the sort of Boston accent at the time of the Revolutionary War, which is very interesting. And I took dialect lessons from him, kind of attempting to learn that accent. I didn't get terribly far. I'm not going to lie. It's tough. It was a tough accent. It was like hard to really because again, it's sort of with original pronunciation, you kind of get like there's resources, like, actors have done plays in it. You can like listen to recordings of it. But this one, there's like really not, at the end, it's just like kind of just one guy who's like doing it. But that was a very, very interesting accent that was kind of very much kind of on the cusp of, kind of that like hard R type of thing that original pronunciation has, the wire and all that, and then and something kind of more sort of non-rhotic and more sort of like, I guess stereotypically kind of prim and proper and kind of RP-ish, where sort of like I think like justice was like justice. It's like this sort of high pitched up here. This is sort of where it was at. That's not the accent, but it sort of had this sort of cadence. It was sort of up in the nose. It's kind of you know what I mean. Very, very interesting to kind of see how English has sort of evolved. But
I love it, man. I loved just listening to the way that you guys speak in the film. I think it's excellent.
Yeah.
It feels of the era. And I think that is important.
Yeah.
Sometimes you will be watching a film and you get taken out of the era by something weirdly modern that happens. And it's that. There's nothing worse than that. I like being in a film where it feels like that era. A big fan of that.
No, absolutely. Yeah, me too. Absolutely. And it was like, and then, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you go on. I'm going to ask you something completely different. So you carry on.
Well, yeah. So, I wanted to. It was just tell a little bit of a story from set. I'm also going to get my my phone, or not my phone charger, my computer charger, because my computer's about to die. So I'll just you can listen to me while I dig around.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's great. Go for it.
But it's kind of funny because Carl Saylor, who plays Reverend Russell in the film, who's the guy who's sort of that's Quaker talk in the when
they're talking about the horrendous things they've done.
Yeah.
And he's
this pussy liberal bullshit, Yeah,
he's like the local priest as well, isn't he?
Yeah, he's the priest. So basically, it's very funny. So I know Carl from. Oh God, my AirPod fell out. Excuse me, sorry, y'all. Bit of a technical difficulty here. I know Carl from high school. I did plays in high school with Carl, and Carl has an uncanny ear for accents. It's very, very interesting. He can just like hear an accent once and pick it up, and it's a very similar thing with OP, which is again not an easy accent. And he when we. And obviously we had like, a lot of these actors in Sudbury Devil were conservatory trained, right? These are professionals. These are total pros, cry on command, like, true craftspeople, right?
Did you make them do that all the time, Andrew? Were you like, cry?
Oh, yeah.
Are you one of these insane directors?
You're cry. Yeah.
You're out there in the woods whipping them.
The weather did that for me. And we had like, we had actors studying this accent for months, you know what I mean? For like really like, and like taking dialect coach lessons and all this sort of stuff. And Carl, with just his weird felicity for accents, he just like shows up on his first day. And Carl, I will say, so I did high school theater with him, and he's got a great look and he's got a great kind of attitude and he's just down to clown. And you know what I mean? He's just like, oh, you're making a movie? Like I'm into it. But he's not a professional actor. He works in a grocery store. And so like, but it was so interesting but he's a good actor, but he's just like raw talent. He doesn't have the like, he can't like talk about like actor stuff that the people who like went to school for it can, But he like got on set on that first day and he like started doing his lines and his accent was perfect. It was perfect. It was like better than the conservatory trained actors. He ran rings around them, and at first everybody met him, and it was just like, okay, like who is this guy? Like we're like really serious people, and this guy he works at a grocery store. Like what is this? And it was like, oh, that's why Andy cast him. Is that he's like eerily good with accents, and is just like completely inhabits a role, and is just like 1,000, just like one of those people who's just like he's like in 1,000%. It's not just like, oh, it's a stupid low budget movie, or like he's not thinking about like how he looks or like if his pecs are if his pecs look good in the shot, he's just like in the moment, he's in the role.
There he is.
That's him.
He was really good. Is that his real hair?
That is his real hair. Yeah, he grew it out
Superb.
basically entirely throughout COVID for this role. Basically, just because I didn't tell him to stop.
Superb.
And
Yeah.
so that was like a very funny moment where I was kind of just like, oh shit, like the bar is really high. But Carl he is returning. He's coming back in my next film, The Vampires of New Orleans. He is playing the Axeman of New Orleans, the infamous serial killer.
Okay.
Who cut up a bunch of Italian immigrants in the 19-teens. So
real person, yeah.
Look forward. Real person, real person.
Yeah.
Or people. He never got caught, so it could be multiple people. But
Jack the Ripper
it's a
of
great
New
role.
Orleans.
Yeah, pretty much. And he does. And speaking of accents, he does an amazing accent in that. He does this he does the Yat accent, which is this kind of like urban dock worker accent that's like very specific to New Orleans. And again, he did it completely perfectly.
Wow.
It's awesome.
Is there any French in there? Is it a bit of a French twang? Or not?
Actually, not really, because a lot of that was. It honestly sounds quite a bit more like Brooklyn.
Right. Okay, interesting.
Yeah, it's like Brooklyn by way of Alabama. It's like a really weird. Yeah. It's really weird because it was cosmopolitan. It's like dock workers. It was like dock workers and like immigrants and like that's kind of where it came from. So really, interesting.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, no, this guy, really good. He was very believable in that role.
Yeah.
I look at him and I'm like, yep, he's a Puritan preacher. Absolutely. Small town Puritan preacher. Absolutely.
Yeah, totally.
Other notes that I've written down. Fornication is a very humorous crime. Did you do much research into the crime of fornication? Is it a real crime that you would be convicted of
excessive,
in 17th century
research.
Massachusetts?
Exhaustive research into fornication, yes.
The crime of fornication.
Yes,
I think you said fornication, that's it, yeah.
Yes.
Excellent, yes. Lastly, I haven't got much more. I enjoyed the bit where he falls through time. He goes through a time portal.
That's a whole
time
thing.
Vortex.
Yes.
That's the whole thing.
Yes. A lot of people hate that part. I'm glad you liked it.
I enjoyed it.
When I edited that together, I was just like, yes, I'm a huge fan of that. I'm a huge fan of that
see
moment.
The influence of the acid trip.
Yeah, sure.
Also in the orbs in the sky. How do you do the orbs? How do you make the orbs?
So the orbs,
you don't name them anything,
that's what we call them in the script. Yeah. So the orbs, we basically we filmed. We got like a big jug, like glass jug, and we filled it with ink. We just did these like ink blots in water, and then we basically just like filmed that from like top down, and then gave it to Blair, our VFX artist, who kind of like made them spherical and 3-dimensional and stuff, and kind of like melded them in with the background of the shots.
So cool. Yeah. So you got practical effects. Is that classed as practical effects?
It's both. It's like both. Elements of practical, elements of digital. Yeah, but yeah, definitely wanted to do something that was like very, that was very kind of larger than life and not strictly like realistic. You know what I mean? Yeah. That was something that was kind of like, not cartoony, but definitely unnatural and like,
for sure,
and just transparently so, just like totally impossible. And yes. Again, it's that's sort of one of those things that when you're shooting on just like such a low budget, to just being able to just make your film stand out at all, it's just got to be like different. You know what I mean? It's just got to be something that you've like have not really seen before. Or there's got to be stuff about different. That that's like in your control, that you can just like really like lean into and make kind of stand out.
There was a dreamlike state to pretty much everything that happened in Sudbury Wood, and I enjoyed that.
Sure,
it's you feel like you're being taken under the witch's spell. Lastly, I just wrote down. What did I write down? I liked the line where he says, "We have both known clever Indians," and I enjoyed that because they're both sort of trying to come to terms with kind of what they've done and also the world that they're living in now, and it's not, there were clever Indians, obviously,
it's a fucked up scene. It's a fucked up scene, but I thought it was, it's definitely an important kind of moment, to be able to, they're literally inventing, right? Yeah, they're inventing racism. They're literally inventing racism.
Pretty much,
like right in front of your eyes. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. They're trying to come to terms with, the different ethnicities that they are around in America, and it's like a begrudging respect for the indigenous people.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, and just that's the weird thing about that. Yeah, yeah. Well, and that's the weird thing about that kind of period of history too, right? I mean, just the early modern era where you just have all of these cultures kind of just colliding for the first time, and often violently, and kind of what the
absolutely,
and just
absolutely.
People kind of coming to terms with that, and sort of inevitably, obviously, you're going to have people who just deal with each other as human beings and recognize their common humanity, and and just oh yeah, whatever. Queequeg, yeah, I have a drink with him, he's fine, but obviously then institutionally and there's systemically there's going to be all sorts of myths made up to sort of justify why we're all different. So that's sort of, and that's very much the period where it's that all kind of came together. So and obviously for as Americans, it's very super consequential. Yeah,
absolutely. We tend to do this thing where we say, oh, that one's okay, but it's the rest of them that are the problem.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of how so much of it works, is it's oh, well, not you, Yeah. Yeah.
It's
because once you kind of,
this is my Jewish friend who's fine. It's the rest of the Jews who are the problem,
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you see Nick Fuentes say that kind of stuff. It's just I talk to black people in my neighborhood, and they don't like the races mixing either. Once you talk to someone face to face, it's impossible to not on some level recognize that they're a fucking person. So you just got to make up stories to pretend that that's not the case.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you liked it, man. I'm glad you liked it.
Yeah, I liked it a lot. I think, to be honest, that's most of my things. I wrote down, this is a little bit like 2001: A Space Odyssey, which I don't know if you've ever heard that before, that comparison.
I have not.
I was watching it yesterday, and just something about an
incredible. I mean, it's a super flattering comparison. It's one of the greatest.
Something about the long shots. There was, the long shots, and
it's kind of the cold sort of. Yeah, that sort of impersonal kind of nature of a lot of it. It's sort of
they linger occasionally, which I quite like as well. That happens in Children of Men as well. The shots sort of linger, and it makes you feel just a little bit on edge because it's just a little bit. Most films, it's quite they're quite fast paced. This is sort of more on the slower side, which I like a lot.
For sure.
Yeah. And then obviously there's the weird trippy bit at the end. That's kind of 2001 all over.
Yeah. Exactly.
And there we go, man.
I'm very glad you liked it. Yeah,
let's go next.
Sudbury Devil, watch it. Yes. So my next film is called Peterloo, from 2018 or 2019. It's a Mike Leigh film that sort of again kind of I feel like it kind of came and went. I feel like I've not really heard that much about this film, but I think it's a masterpiece. There's a review on Letterboxd that I really like that says this is Mike Leigh's Ken Loach film, which very much is. It's this fiercely political exploration of sort of the lead up to the Peterloo massacre. Very famously in 1819, these sort of mill workers in Manchester organized, for just not being worked to death. You know what I mean? Just the most basic labor protections. And kind of spoiler alert, but but yeah, kind of sort of I'm not quite sure what sort of organization it was within kind of the British government, but basically kind of the militia or whatever, the army kind of came through and just was charged in with cavalry and all that sort of stuff and killed 18 people, wounded 200. But it's sort of this seminal kind of moment in labor history, and kind of the reaction to it was very interesting. Kind of the romantic poets in particular, like Percy Bysshe Shelley, wrote this whole part in Queen Mab about essentially sort of the gilded flies who sit on a pile of shit. You know what I mean? It's this very kind of anti sort of bosses sort of mentality that that the Romantics were kind of really kicked into action because of this massacre. And what I find very interesting about this movie is sort of is first of all kind of its sense of kind of authenticity. It's that sort of the speaking of accents, the accents are perfect. Everybody just looks like they stepped out of a Northern English mill town. Rory Kinnear plays this like kind of 1819 Bernie Sanders. He's like this like kind of this like populist speaker who's like popular in the South or whatever, and like all the Northern mill workers are like trying to go down to London. But like his speaking engagement is basically like to get him to speak at their rally, and he's like kind of an asshole and like kind of full of himself and like very like particular about like the speaking order and all that type of stuff. So it's like a very like interesting exploration of like how labor movements get going, how they can be hijacked by big personalities. It really minces no words as well, just like how fucking ghoulish so many of the like mill owners were at that time. I mean, they're truly evil. They just do not fucking care at all about the well-being of these workers. And yeah, it's just a great film. It's it was on. I think it was produced by Amazon. Oh, the irony! But it's not on Amazon anymore. I saw it. I've only seen it the once, but I fucking loved it, and I've tried to see it since then. But yeah, it's like I don't know. Maybe it's just not available in the States or whatever. But I'm sure you probably get it on Blu-ray or something. But great movie.
Yeah, Amazon being the new mill, the mill of today.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, as an author, I mean, my God, I'm sure you have a lot to say about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the trouble is just any monopoly, to be honest, and like Amazon have got themselves a monopoly, and it's just a monopoly is never good. It's never good, because if you have no competition between different companies, the one company can just do whatever the hell they want, and Amazon do.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely. Sorry.
These mill owners. I mean, this is the end of the Middle Ages, pretty much, and they are still living. These mill owners still have the mentality of a medieval baron. Basically, they do not give a shit, as you say.
Yeah, and it's just such an interesting like transition too. I mean, I've been thinking a lot about this, like especially kind of getting into the Romantics quite a bit last year. As I was sort of I sort of listened to Frankenstein on audiobook while I was hiking along the Appalachian Trail last like May. And I had read Frankenstein in like high school or whatever, and I liked it just fine. But there was something about like walking through the woods, and especially this hurricane ravaged landscape, because Hurricane Helene had like destroyed Western North Carolina and East Tennessee, which is where I was hiking. So there was like entire valleys where just like the trees were like completely like laid waste to, and of course the hurricane was exacerbated very much by climate change, and Frankenstein is all about like kind of sort of irresponsible science and irresponsible sort of kind of industry, sort of like treading on nature and like sort of exploiting nature, and kind of I argue in my video, Frankenstein essentially raping nature, essentially kind of like sexually assaulting nature to sort of dominate her. And so to sort of like having all these things sort of swirling around in my brain, and then and got really into the Romantics, and one thing that I think what I really love about the Romantics, other than of course their outrageous sexual escapades, is like that they arose at this time, right? At this time when the Industrial Revolution was like fully like, like obviously you kind of go back to the 1790s, you like start to see it, but it's really like the 18 teens that it's just like, okay, we're like fully in like industrial capitalism now. You know what I mean? This is fully a modern economy that is in the UK at least,
Yeah,
and it's like
big time.
It's just basically like completely indistinguishable in every way that matters from our own world. It's like this is the birth of the modern world, in my opinion. So like sort of when they and sort of the reaction of the Romantics to that is basically psychosis. Is basically like to deny. To sort of to just delve into the imagination and to delve into the subjective, and to delve into like emotion and feeling. And that's kind of their rebellion against this like strictly rational, strictly scientific bourgeois society that's like arose and is sort of causing all of this mayhem and and all this upheaval within society and all this exploitation, both sort of at home and
Yes.
abroad in England at this time. And
Yes.
and I think that's just such an interesting sort of dichotomy, right? Of just sort of the subjective imagination versus sort of, it's kind of, and that's sort of, I have a buddy who sort of, we were talking about this, and he said it's just like that's sort of one of the great, like one of the things that you can do as a revolutionary is just completely break from reality. And you kind of like, if you disagree with your society enough, you are kind of psychotic. Like you just don't accept what you're looking at. And I think that perfectly describes the Romantics and how they were sort of reacting to this period in history.
Well, it happens time and time again. Time and time again throughout modern history, and probably before that as well, because I mean that's sort of the 60s in a nutshell as well. That's like Timothy Leary telling everybody to drop out.
Yes. Exactly.
It's kind of the same sort of thing. Yeah.
No, absolutely.
Like
I think the 60s is a great comparison as well. But yeah, Peterloo. I mean, it's got like it's one of those movies that has just like every British actor you've ever seen in it. You know what I mean? It's just like got such like an amazing cast. So yeah, it's great.
Yeah, so it's if you're an American, you either really like British movies and TV shows, or you haven't seen any of them.
Yeah.
There's two types of Americans.
I was watching Monty Python, when I was in 5th grade. Like my dad showed me Monty Python, and I was just like off to the races, man. No, for sure. But yeah, I love British movies. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, great movie. I've seen it once. I should probably rewatch it.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of these. It's just this. There's a lot of these great historic epics in recent years, and they always have.
Yeah, there's some really good ones.
Well, they often have like a nice, not nice, but they have a message. There's a message at the heart of it, and I think the message of this one was just like, fuck the bosses.
Yeah. It's a very angry movie. Movie, but I mean, I think it's called for.
It's important. It's important
for sure.
Yeah. All right. Anything else you want to say about that?
I guess not. Let's move on to the next one.
We can because we've only got, how many have we done? We've done 3 so far. So
you've done 3, yeah.
We'll get a little bit of a move on. Do you have a time frame or anything?
I mean, it is
roughly 2
really
hours.
Fucking. Yeah. I think 2 hours probably max.
What time is it?
Oh, it's fucking 4 in the fucking morning, dude. It's really late.
Why are you speaking to me?
I'm naturally like quite a night owl, but I will say this is kind of stretching it even for me. But I'm enjoying our conversation. I'm having a lot of time. I'm a lot of fun. I'm drinking some absinthe. I'm doing okay. I'm feeling fine.
I love it. You're a crazy man. It's great. Okay, where are we going? What are we doing now? All right.
Yes, it's your turn. Yeah, your turn.
Let's go to the 60s. We just mentioned it briefly. A movie I watched the other day, rewatched again. It's Platoon.
Oh my God, this movie's incredible.
Great film. It's God, I'm terrible with names of directors. It's Christopher Stone. Oliver Stone. That's it. Oliver Stone. Yeah. Oliver Stone did a series called like The Untold History of the United States. Did you ever watch that? The documentary series?
I don't think I did, actually.
Wild series. It's like the entire history of the United States, but warts and all. It's one of these ones like, is it Howard Zinn? Is he the other guy who did the People's History of the United States? It's like that. It's like the campfire in your film, because they are just talking about all the horrendous bits, the horrendous stuff. And for me, Platoon it's a bit like that. I mean, Oliver Stone.
Yeah, for sure.
He is aware of the dark side of the human condition, the dark side of the United States of America.
For sure.
And that's what this film is about. But there's also some hope in the film. It's the story of it's Charlie Sheen goes to Vietnam, young. I think it's maybe like the end of the 60s when he goes, probably 69 or something like that.
Yeah.
The war's been going on for a few years. So he arrives. He's very green. He meets up with everybody else who's already there. They're all grizzled. And in the particular platoon, platoon that he's in. I was about to say like brigade. In the particular brigade that he's in, that's what they name the film after.
In the regiment.
In the platoon, 2 groups are formed, and there's sort of the one group where they are clinging on to their humanity a little bit.
Yeah,
They're trying to cling on to their humanity a bit, but unfortunately, I mean, they're the ones that, led by Willem Dafoe, they kind of drop out. They drink and they smoke weed, and they try and sort of like avoid the hell that they're in. And then there's the other group where they fully embrace the war. And the other group are the ones who do the war crimes. They do the, very, very bad rape, murder, burning down villages, all of which really happened in Vietnam. And there's this duality in the film, I feel, where it's the quest to keep your own soul if you're in a battlefield situation is what I feel. That's what I take away from this film. It's an intense movie.
Yeah, totally. It's a very intense movie. Well, I think it's also kind of like, the microcosm of that generation.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It's
Absolutely.
like the baby boomers. It's sort of, like what happened to the baby boomers. That sort of, you've got kind of the, and how Vietnam, broke them. You know what I mean? Just like completely defined so many people in that generation. And yeah, I mean, Oliver Stone obviously as a Vietnam vet knew a lot of this stuff firsthand, and I mean, I think in a lot of ways it's become kind of even more kind of prescient, right? Considering kind of like sort of how the baby boomer generation, kind of now that we're sort of, I guess, entering kind of their twilight years, kind of how, just like, that there was sort of always a bit of a battle for the soul of that generation. And some of them are cool and some of them are very much not cool, and not chill.
Yes. But I mean, it portrays, also the fear as well, because I can't remember what the actor's name is, but the guy from Scrubs, the lead doctor in Scrubs, he's in the film, and he's this sort of dithering, kind of scared guy, and he hides behind this nutcase, but really he's scared, and he's only perpetrating the crimes that he does. I mean, he doesn't really do much crimes, but he's sort of an accessory, and he's terrified. He's absolutely terrified. And as soon as this guy dies, the other one, he's just sort of like hiding in the mud and trying to save himself. God, I mean, I can't even imagine what a war situation would be like, let alone a war where you get there and you realise it's pointless.
Yeah.
Because it becomes clear very quickly, as soon as the soldiers get to Vietnam, that there's really very little point to the war. Really very little point to it.
Yeah, no. And just Vietnam, just what a absolute clusterfuck, and how, and it's sort of, I always kind of think as well of kind of, I remember my teachers in like middle school and high school talking about Vietnam and kind of living through Vietnam when they were like, kind of like the age that I was at that time. And we were kind of living through the Iraq War at that time, right? When I was in high school, the Iraq War was going on, Iraq and Afghanistan, and it was just not something that we like talked about, or that anybody talked about, that nothing was like, it was like basically nothing was going on. We'd like watch TV and Brian Jennings would say, 10 American soldiers died in a helicopter crash today. But then I'd talk to my teachers about Vietnam, and they'd say like, yeah, we had no prom. There was no prom.
Yes.
In my year. Because so many of our classmates were like, had gone off and died. And we were like, we don't feel like celebrating this. That there was this sort of sense of like,
mostly 18-year-olds. Yeah.
Yeah. And also sort of this sense of like society where like the home front was an actual thing, right? Where like people at home actually were like paying attention to the war, were invested in what was happening into the war. And it wasn't just fading into the background of our lives, and obviously it was a much, and sort of making that comparison between Iraq and Vietnam, of course, you got to sort of have the caveat that, of course, many more Americans died in Vietnam than in Iraq. But still, amounts. I mean, it's insane amounts. Yeah. But it's still at the same time, right? Obviously, it also bears saying, not anywhere nearly as close as the Vietnamese and Iraqis who died in either of those conflicts. But,
absolutely.
But it's still, I think, it was still kind of by very much by design was in the Iraq War. It's just like, let's not like talk about the grisly details of what's going on too much in terms of sort of the media and the government. It's like not, it's just like it was just not something that was like appropriate for dinner table conversation. Whereas certainly in Vietnam, you couldn't get away from it. People were talking about it all the time. It's huge convulsive impact on American society.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then, it's just, it seems to me, it's like a war for America's soul in a way. And
Sure.
there's a before Vietnam and there's an after Vietnam. And before
Yeah.
there's the idea of the American dream and the idealistic, we're the good guys going out to the world, bringing democracy.
Yeah.
Then there's the after, where you just kind of
Yeah.
declare war on anyone whenever you want.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, and just also like speaking of kind of film history, the sort of cynicism that you see in movies going into the 70s, and just how every
right.
film was this sort of dark, gritty kind of like disgusting like crime, Midnight Cowboy, The French Connection, you know what I mean, like The Godfather. These were the sorts of films that really sort of spoke to people, especially in the early 70s. But of course, you can kind of have, too much bleakness and too much dourness, because then, of course, in 1977, Star Wars comes out and just like completely, like it's just like, oh, everybody was just so desperate for something kind of escapist and happy.
That's right. Yeah. And then the 80s comes around and everything's completely different. There's this buoyancy again that begins again. And the 70s seemed like quite a dark decade, gritty.
Oh, for sure.
Quite dark. Everyone had lost hope. There was this idealism in the 60s that just didn't really go anywhere. It ended in bloodshed and violence and protests that were just brutally suppressed. And then it all just sort of falls apart. It's interesting, isn't it? There's these. Then I feel like there's more hope in the 80s. The 90s was quite a hopeful time. The Berlin Wall had come down, and we have this sort of like rising of hope. Then it collapses in on itself. Then it rises again.
Well, it collapsed with the Twin Towers, man. Yeah, I mean, it collapsed with the Twin Towers. That's that was the end of that. I mean, it's
Absolutely.
the 90s was. I mean, it was almost like rapturous. Like there was something about the 90s that was almost apocalyptic, with like the sort of the end of history, right? The sort of this idea of like, well, like that's liberal democracy just defeated communism, and like that's the end. Like this is the ideology that's going to take us to other solar systems. Like people truly believed that it was like we're no longer earthbound. Like this is the final stage of like earthbound humanity.
Yeah, I always remember when I first got to university, one of the first things that we were told was this this Francis Fukuyama quote of like, this is the end of history. And it was like, do you agree with this? And we all didn't agree with it. No. History is never over. Always something new is going to happen. And then there was the Millennium Bug, obviously, in the 90s as well. Everyone was looking forward to the Millennium Bug, and we thought we were going to be downloaded into the singularity or something. No,
exactly.
That was 2027.
Exactly. I'm still a little skeptical, but we'll see.
No, so am I. Yeah. In a way, it's sort of like, it's encouraging a little bit. I mean, I hate all this AI stuff, but it's encouraging that the scientists' predictions have been at least a little bit correct. Because for years, Ray Kurzweil was saying, singularity is coming, and then he was like, no, it's going to be just another 5 years, just another 5 years, just another 5 years. Well, we kind of are.
I promise this time, definitely.
This time, we're getting towards it anyway. But I mean, I just hope we, get universal basic income, and we can all just have a nice time, and everything doesn't just collapse, and people can pursue art. But I think it's probably not going to happen. I think we're fucked.
I mean, I hope you're right too. I mean, I guess I'm just not terribly convinced that let me preface this by saying, like, I don't fucking know anything about this. This is just my opinion. That's like not very well informed. But I guess I'm just like not super convinced that what the technology we call AI today, like LLMs and all that,
it's not like real AI. I know. It's
like the precursor to artificial general intelligence from science fiction. Like to me, that seems like two very different things.
I completely agree with you. Yeah.
And it seems like the AI companies have like a vested like financial interest in hyping their product and saying like because the bubble is so huge and it's like bound to burst eventually, they're just like, oh, just like hold on and give us more money because like it is the end of the
Absolutely.
world. So like you have nothing to lose. You know what I mean? It's like it just seems
Absolutely.
like
I agree.
a bit of a grift in that sense. But I mean, I'm not like again, I don't fucking
And
know anything about it. I might be wrong.
everyone is pushing it. Every single company is
Yeah,
pushing it. They're all
yeah,
obsessed with it because they think that everybody wants it, and not everybody does
yeah.
want it. But they're
No.
going to keep pushing it until everybody just has to begrudgingly accept it.
Yeah,
Which
yeah. Hopefully not. Or, hopefully something will stop them. Well,
hopefully not.
shall we move on? Should we move on
Let's
to our
move on.
next
I mean,
film?
I've barely even spoken about Platoon, but I just sort of wanted to.
Oh, no, we can talk more about Platoon if you want.
Well, no, I mean that's probably about it, really. But I like the '60s. I think the '60s is an interesting decade for sure because it's one of those times, a little bit like the Romantics, where it seems like everything's changing and people are
Yeah,
making a lot
yeah,
of interesting art about that change.
totally.
And there's a little bit of hope. There's a little bit of like a sense that if we use escapism, we can kind of like move past all this bullshit that's happening.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. Yeah,
I like
totally.
those periods in history where there are shreds of hope. I don't think we're in one of them right now, unfortunately.
No, I don't
Maybe
either.
it's
But
my
I
nostalgia
mean,
from my childhood in the '90s because I'm the ultimate '90s child. I'm 1990, so
yeah, right on the
I
dot.
remember
Yeah,
the
I'm
'90s.
91. I'm 91.
There you go. You're the
Yeah.
same as me then. We remember the '90s well. We remember the time just before the internet,
Mm-hmm.
and I yearn for that.
I yearn for I yearn for the 90. Give us Bill
Yeah,
Clinton,
exactly,
that rapist.
exactly. Well, when
Yeah,
the worst thing that was happening was Bill Clinton,
getting a
having
blowjob from yeah.
having relations with that woman. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. So it seems so quaint now. And but Monica
Yes.
Lewinsky is awesome, by the way. I was like, have you like seen any interviews with her recently? She is like incredibly cool.
I know that she was in. There was a drama made about that incident, but
Yeah,
I
did
don't
that
know
actually? I saw
more.
that. That was good. But no, but yeah, just Monica Lewinsky is like very like it's she's just like incredibly cool. Like she just like got a very like you could tell that she's just like incredibly whip smart and like has good perspectives on things and also like that whole thing was like very obviously not her fault. You know what I mean? Like it's like
Yes.
it just to hear her say it, it's just like oh okay, like of course it was just him being a creepy old man.
Well, she was just a
But
young. She was like what, 20 or
yeah,
something.
yeah, she's like 21 or something. Yeah.
Bill Clinton was just being a bit of a dirty old man. Yeah.
Yeah, no, he's just a dog. Yeah, yeah, for sure. Oh, Bill. So
Old
my
Bill.
next film.
Old Bill.
Uh, so the next film that I wanted to talk about is the Battle of Algiers, which I guess recently kind of was brought up in sort of the discourse because one battle after another, which won Best Picture yesterday, no Sunday, whatever it was, at the Oscars this year. Leonardo DiCaprio's character is watching Battle of Algiers in a scene is very much an influence on one battle after another. So the Battle of Algiers is, you'd be hard pressed to call it a historical film at the time that it was made because it was about events that had just happened 10 years prior. But I think it's very much kind of in that vein of like the war epic.
Yeah.
And it's about basically the Algerian resistance to French colonialism in the 1950s. And what I really love about this movie, and why I've been thinking about it a lot, is that it's essentially like a docudrama. It's that it's like shot very much like a documentary. There's like documentary sort of aspects to it. And in fact, a lot of the actors were like the local people in Algiers who they cast were actual revolutionaries who like
Oh,
less than
wow.
10 years before had been like doing what they're portraying, in the film. It's a very I'm making a docudrama right now. My new movie, The Vampires of New Orleans, is a docudrama. So it's like a documentary with narrative elements, and this was a huge inspiration for that. My film is very different, but it's sort of the general vibe of like you can have like an incredible story as well as like basically teaching something and like sort of imparting kind of good information, like good historical like information to your audience is like a big part of it. But yeah, just this like, I mean, you look at the street photography, right? This just like super cinema verite, which is a fancy film school word for just like documentary style. It's like this very
Ooh, banned in France.
oh yeah, I wonder why. But yeah, this like very sort of run and gun guerrilla style of filming that just gives everything this sense of reality. This use of non-actors,
Yeah.
as I
Yeah.
mentioned, people who literally took part in it, but also just like random people on the street, right? It's just like just residents of the neighborhood really just gives it this sickening sense of realism. And also, it is not.
Does look real.
I would say, yeah, I would say this is like a pretty unabashedly like anti-colonial film. I don't think it's like really sort of minces words about kind of whose side the film is on. But I will say that it is like very unflinching in its moral complexity. Like there is this sickening scene where this like Algerian freedom fighter who's like we've been following for a while and is like very justified in becoming a revolutionary, right? He's like very much like, you know, has just been like just utterly like oppressed and subjected by the French. Basically, is like gonna plant a bomb in like a French restaurant. Yeah. And so they come in and they like put down a bag with a bomb in it, and the camera lingers on all the people in the restaurant, and it's like kids and like women and like innocent people and they're just like they're enjoying their day, they're like having a good time, and then all of a sudden the bomb goes off, and it's just this like just this sickening kind of moment. So, you know, it's something that's like that I think is commendable in the fact that it doesn't really like you know, again, it's not both sidesing it. It's not just like, well, you know, the French had a point. It's like, nah, fuck the French, fuck imperialism. They're obviously in the wrong, but like also this like violence is not a fun thing. It's not a right thing.
And also, you know,
and this has consequences.
The collateral damage is children get blown up.
Yeah.
Whenever these things happen. Yeah. Absolutely. The use of non-actors, I love that kind of thing. This is kind of like The Wire, because The Wire, the TV show, you know, it feels so real. Number one, because it's written by people who were in that world. Number two, it's the people in the TV show were in that world. You know, they're all just, they're not even really acting. They're just, this was who they were. Yeah, it certainly adds a sense of realism. Where did they film? So they filmed it in Algiers.
Yeah, in Algiers. Yeah.
Only 10 years after the actual.
Have you seen this movie?
No, I've not seen it. I need to watch this movie.
Cool. Yeah, it's incredible. It's a total.
You're a proper film guy. All your picks were like really interesting picks. I'm like, oh yeah, these are cool, man. Mine are maybe more obvious.
I know. I mean, I've loved the ones that you brought up.
I'm a history guy. I'm not necessarily a film guy. I do absolutely love films, but I don't have a background in you know, film analysis or anything like that. Did you go to college? You said you went to college. What did you study at?
I did. I go to school. I studied film directing.
Nice. So you know
much
all about
good that it did me. You know, it's spent a lot of money on.
Eventually,
it did. But yeah, for the first few years, it was just like, what the fuck? I tell people
I did a history
don't,
degree, man.
Yeah. No, I tell people don't go to film school, but I actually did. I met a lot of a lot of people that I made Sudbury Devil with, and that I made my new movie with. You know, I met in college, so in that sense, I think it was worth it because I kind of met so many of my team and my collaborators. But
I would imagine that some of the things that you've used in your YouTube videos, you did learn in film school. I mean, you don't just
less
come by.
Than you would think.
Less than you think. Oh, fair enough. Yeah.
Less than you would think.
Enough.
Like, honestly, most of I think like because like when I started making YouTube videos in like 2018, I was making a video every week. Like I was like cranking them out. Yeah. Like that, which seems so like impossible now. Like
Same.
I literally could never do that. I tried like in the summer of 2024, I was like, okay, I like need to make more money this year. Well, because also like my movie came out and I didn't really make much stuff in 2023 because I was really busy with my movie. So it was just like kind of a loss of opportunity, like an opportunity cost there. So in summer of 2024, I was like, I'm going to make a video every 2 weeks. I'm going to release a video like every 2 weeks on a Friday. And it completely kicked my ass. Like I was just like, I can't do this. It's like too quick. I can't do this. But sort of, I guess what I was saying was like, in back when I first started my channel, I was making a video every week, and that was like film school again, because it was like, you know, just sort of working on these like low stakes little YouTube videos was like so much more helpful to like honing my craft, just a hands-on experience than taking a bunch of classes.
I couldn't agree more. In the early days, there's a nice thing as well where you have literally nothing to lose when you start a YouTube channel, because no one's watching anyway. So you may as well just put out as much as you possibly can. Learn how to do it on the job. I learned by doing, so I just learned by making 100 videos. Totally. Put them out there, and they can all be terrible. It's absolutely fine.
Yeah,
eventually
exactly.
after
Nobody's
100,
watching.
you
Yeah.
know, one of them's going to be okay. Like just
Yeah, exactly.
sheer,
Yeah,
just
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
if they're not okay after you've made 100, then maybe there's something wrong. But
Maybe it's not
they
for
will
you.
be.
Yeah, but
Yeah, they will
yeah.
be though. They will be.
No,
So
for
anyone
sure,
out
for
there
sure.
who
Well,
wants to start this thing, you know, just start it. Would be my advice.
yeah. Oh, absolutely. Well, it's also kind of that early work sort of syndrome. It's sort of you often kind of like hear, you know, with a lot of artists, it'll be like, oh, well, you know, their early work was better, and I think that's why. I think it's because there's just like you're throwing you're
Constantly
throwing
going.
shit against the wall. You're like not really worrying about
Yeah.
like what it says about you or whatever.
Yeah.
Like your ego's not bound up in it. You're like just trying to fucking prove yourself, and that's, well, I guess that is pretty egoic. But you know what I mean. It's like it's like you're not.
But it's a different
sort. It's different. It's desperate. You're like you're craving like.
You're
It's
not
desperate
reflecting,
and it's learning, and you're not reflecting. You're just doing it. Yeah, and that's sort of that sort of young person's sort of energy. I think is like very conducive to to some like you know can do some like great work. You know that often more kind of mature work, while it is almost universally, I think, like deeper and more resonant and more like sort of says more about the human condition and all that stuff, that sometimes it can feel kind of like stodgy and like and a little bit too composed and like not quite as like urgent, you know. Yeah,
it's like it's been cooked for a little bit too long sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, for sure.
I am very much guilty of this at the moment, unfortunately, because my earlier work, I feel like it was
me too, man. Me too.
Punchier. It was just out there, done. Whereas now I muse on things for longer. I let it stew, and then sometimes it's, I don't know, maybe not as good, or it's just different. Anyway, it's different.
Yeah. No, I mean, and I think that's life, right? I mean, you change, and your work is going to change. I mean,
that's right.
So I think that's like completely natural, you know. And I don't think it really is a question of like better or worse, but I do think that
different.
And speaking for myself, I think my current work is like objectively much better than my earlier work.
I would
but
think so too about my work, but you know, who knows?
Yeah. But I do think that there's like, I think that it. But I think punchy is a great way to put it. I think it's a lot less punchy. I think like my early work is much punchier. And you know, and then some of that also I think is like because we have such an unusual job that like, I mean, a lot of people, I guess like 1 million people have our job, but it's like not that many people
it's not that many
that you'll like
people.
meet in your life. Yeah.
Yes.
But like, I think it's because it's an unusual job. It's like not relatable. I think our lives are not relatable to our audience anymore.
100%,
so that's the other thing, is
100%.
that like in the early years, it was just like, oh, we're just like some history nerds with similar interests as you, making we're all like part of the same conversation, and now we're like not part of the same conversation. Like our lives are like very different from our audience's lives, and that lack of relatability is, I think that's the thing.
Yeah, lack of relatability, sometimes lack of urgency as well, because I'm not saying we've achieved great success or anything like this, but we've got like a little bit of a following, just in the sense that you don't have to upload every week anymore.
Yeah, we got less to prove.
Yeah, less to prove, I think. Yeah, and with that urgency, you know. Yeah, I mean, I suppose this is how you end up with a megalopolis.
Exactly.
If you let it go too far, I guess. If you let it go too far, you end up with a megalopolis. I'm sure there's plenty of other examples of films like that, where someone is just,
is so out of touch that
spent too long on the film. He spent 50 years on that film or something stupid.
Yeah, literally like 50 years. Yeah.
And probably $50 million as well.
Yeah, I think 120 of his wine money, of his Coppola wine money.
Crazy,
yeah.
man. I mean, look, the man can do whatever he wants, but
Sure. Oh my God. Yeah. But
the critics
we
can
don't have to
also
like
pan the film. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Exactly. We don't have to like it.
Yeah.
Well,
cool.
let's move on. I know we're
nice
sort
digression.
of kind of slightly running out of time here. So what's
to be honest, man,
next?
it's just how long until you pass out.
That's true. But I don't want to keep you past 2 hours. So what's your next movie?
Well, if we go past 2 hours, it's absolutely fine, really. It's still it's nice and early here. It's nice and early. It's still.
That's true. Well, I just want to respect your time, Yeah.
9:24 a.m.
Yeah.
I feel like a bit of a terrorist
God,
though, messing up with your time. I didn't realize it was. For some reason, I thought it was like 3 p.m. for you. I had.
I'm wide awake, dude. I'm wide awake. All right,
man. Well, just briefly, we'll talk about Death of Stalin, mostly because
incredible movie.
Loved this film. Loved this film. It's a comedy. it's the same people who made The Thick of It, which is an absolutely great political satirical sitcom in the UK. Very, very English, very, very British.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
The thick of it is politicians arguing with each other.
Yeah.
And the dialogue is very thick and fast and very quick-witted, and they're just constantly talking. It's all in the dialogue, and this film is the same thing. But obviously what they've done is they've changed it from 2000s Labour government England, and they've put it to 1950s Soviet Russia, so slightly different setting, but it's got the same just comic, but also comic tragic. What's the word? Tragicomic.
Yeah,
tragicomic. It's all awful, but it's you can't help but laugh. And
it's so funny.
And I've always seen the Soviet era a little bit like this, because it's just a little bit, you can't help but laugh because it's all so ridiculous. It's all so whimsical. Like none of Stalin dies, right? He's dying. None of his guards want to go into the room because they're worried that if they go in and sort of like mess with him at all, they'll get killed. So they just don't, just leave it. So they sort of hear him dying in his room and they just stand outside and leave him. And it's down to all of his, the Politburo, all the main leaders of the Soviet state to go in and sort of deal with the situation. And then it's this power grab, essentially. Everyone's trying to outmaneuver each other just within minutes of his death, really. And Monty Python's Michael Palin playing
in a great role.
Molotov, absolutely fantastic. This is it. Molotov was great. He said he was great. I shouldn't say that. Molotov was
a great man.
Yeah, he's an interesting character because Stalin liked him because Molotov was very much, whenever he was around Stalin, he was the beta. Stalin was the alpha, and Molotov was very happy to fulfill the role of the sort of like the subservient to the boss. But at the same time, he was a ruthless motherfucker. So whenever he wasn't around Stalin, he was a ruthless guy, and he played the role. And I think there's this theatricality within Stalin's court that intrigues me, because they're all playing the role that Stalin wants them to be. So they're all acting. They're all acting, and this was true. This is really how they were. Stalin was the boss. He was in charge, and everyone just did what they portrayed themselves. They put themselves out there in a way that was conducive to getting Stalin's affection. So Stalin wanted them to be hard men, but he wanted them to be subservient to him. And
exactly.
And then Stalin dies, and it all just becomes very nonsensical because all this just insane things that have been in place for 30 years begin to unravel. And it's hilarious. But I would like to see more films done in this style, where it's just
totally
hilarious and ridiculous.
And
Stalin's son running in.
And like the sense of the like surveillance too, right? Kind of the idea that you can always be like, anybody could be listening all the time is like such an interesting like kind of device. Yeah, like in this scene, they're like they have to like go and talk in the car because it's the only place that's not going to be bugged. And there's a scene they're in Molotov's apartment, and he like keeps flushing the toilet to like so that the bug doesn't hear their conversation. It's just like so ridiculous.
It's just a fact of life, and they've all adapted to such an extent. They're all on edge constantly. No one can ever actually show their true feelings or their true thoughts. They're all on edge constantly, and they're all acting all the time.
Yeah, for sure. And I love Jason Isaacs as Marshal Zhukov.
He's fantastic.
Got that great introductory, and
fantastic.
Whose dick I got a suck to get a drink around here, and he's got that great
exactly.
show.
He comes in, he's got this regional accent.
Exactly.
So good.
Yeah,
they do that. There's been a few things recently where they there was one, oh god, what's it called? Chernobyl. Did you ever watch that, the TV show Chernobyl?
Yeah.
They've all got regional accents in that, and I think it works really well. They're all just like my accents are terrible, but they're all speaking in sort of like, I can't really remember, is it Cockney? I can't remember what accents they're doing, but
I think
they're
it's like
not
Yorkshire
RP.
or something.
It's like Yorkshire accents. It just makes sense because Russia is full of these thick regional accents because it's such a
Yeah.
ridiculously huge country. Stalin spoke
Yeah.
with a big, thick Georgian accent, so it's
Yeah.
almost
Yeah. He
like
sure
I
did.
always think it's like he's got a thick Glaswegian accent or something. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. Yeah.
he's a
Or like a
regional
Southern
accent.
American accent. Yeah.
Yeah,
He's got
Southern
like this sort
American
of
accent. Yeah, could well
provincial
be.
kind of redneck kind of
That's
accent.
right. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
right. And,
Precisely.
and in his youth, obviously, he was just a gangster. Really, he trained to be a
Yeah.
priest, gave up on that,
Yeah.
became a gangster, and a lot of these Soviet politicians began in these regional areas, and they lived these insane lives, and then they eventually,
Yeah.
rose through the ranks to become bureaucrats. Super fascinating time period.
Totally.
And you don't
Totally.
see films about this time period. You don't see films
No,
about
you really
Soviet Russia.
don't. It's
How many
yeah. I
films
mean,
do we have about the Nazis?
oh my
Thousands.
God, yeah, yeah, so many, so many. No, it's true. Well, it's like, I mean, I think, certainly well, I think so much of that is because, like, obviously so much of cinema history kind of sort of happened during the Cold War, right? It's like that's like when
Yes.
kind of cinema was this defining art form, was when Americans
Yes.
weren't going to make movies about Soviet Russia because they were the evil empire, and
Yep.
Soviets obviously weren't making sort of honest movies about themselves because there was a bunch of
100%. Yeah, yeah.
censorship kind of over
Absolutely.
there, as there was here,
Absolutely.
of course. I mean, the Hays Code literally is just government censorship. So it's
Yes,
not
yes,
like,
yes, yes.
we were like so advanced compared to them. But like,
It's
I mean, yeah.
it's a good point, the censorship thing, yeah, because the actual information coming out of the Soviet Union was very scant. So
Yeah.
did we, in the West, did we know about this? Probably not to the same extent that we know now, because in the 90s
Yeah.
it was all declassified. There was a
Yeah,
brief
yeah.
window when historians could go in and find all this information. It's all been closed off since, in the current
Yeah.
climate, unfortunately. But there was a brief
Yeah, it's too
window
bad.
where it was a bit of a free-for-all, and a lot of information came out about just these crazy things that were happening in the 50s and 60s.
Well, wasn't there also a lot of World War II stuff that came out around that time? Because it was like, I'm not sort of, World War II military history is not my forte, so I'm sure that there'll probably be somebody in the chat who's could certainly speak to this.
Oh, there always is.
Yeah. Wasn't there like a lot of narratives about World War II were kind of that sort of filtered into the West, were like written by Nazis who were just lying, and like about like the clean Wehrmacht and stuff like that, and then sort
yes.
of the Soviet
100%.
narratives started coming out, and it was just like, oh wow, these Germans like do not, it's like, just, like
100%.
does not add up, that
Yes,
clearly
yes. I mean,
these Germans were were lying. Yeah.
that's right. Yeah, there was the idea that the Wehrmacht, the regular German army, was, largely innocent in the crimes of the Holocaust, the Holocaust by bullets and things like this. But it wasn't true.
Yeah.
I mean, many of the units that perpetrated the Holocaust, in particular the Holocaust by bullets, which is the one where they actually shot people, like at Babi Yar in Ukraine. You see the famous ravine where they're shooting people on the edge of it. That was perpetrated by the Wehrmacht.
Yeah.
That was. SS as well, but it was also regular army troops.
Sure.
So yeah, it's one of these things where we always, in particular with Soviet Russia, we were seeing one side. We weren't seeing the Soviet side for a long time. But it worked both ways, because there was still in the 50s and 60s an idea that the Soviet Union, it was good. It was great. Like we didn't really know much about the Holodomor, for example, which is the genocide in Ukraine in the 1930s, where as many as 5, 6, 7 million people starved to death. Horrendous times, intentionally done by the Soviet state because they didn't want Ukrainian independence. We didn't really know about that, and it was all successfully suppressed by the Soviets. Totalitarian states, man, authoritarian states, not good. Autocracies.
Yeah, I mean, it's
big no for me.
Yeah, well, there was hot take. There's also a lot of speaking of film history, a lot of Soviet films, especially in like the early part of cinema, were very technically advanced. That's sort of an interesting. You kind of look at movies, like Battleship Potemkin, and
that's the one I was
and a lot
thinking
of these,
of. Yes, I
these
was just thinking
Eisenstein films that are,
yeah.
When American films were basically just like filmed plays. Not even that; they were just like very simple, right? I mean, and people say that like that Birth of a Nation was like this huge leap forward, and in some ways it was, but it's like very primitive compared to what the Soviets were making in the teens and 20s. And Alexander Nevsky, that was a little later, that was the 30s, but just like it's basically just a fully formed modern like medieval war epic. It's just like Braveheart,
Yes. Yes.
more or less just fully formed, just super advanced films. And that was like, certainly because, the Soviet government, like fully understood film's value as propaganda. So they invested in it heavily.
100%. 100%. What's that one that they made later on? Is it Waterloo? There's a big Napoleonic era film.
Oh yeah, was it War and Peace?
Maybe that. It was made in the Soviet Union, and it's like the most extras ever used on a film.
Yeah, it's
Is
like
that right?
20,000
And
people. I think it's War and Peace.
Scenes, and the battle scenes are actual battles. Like it's a full-on 10,000 on 10,000 battle that you can see.
Yeah.
And it'll probably never be made again. Probably a film like that will never be made again, sadly.
No, certainly not.
I wonder if they pay. I mean, those extras not getting paid, probably, are they?
Absolutely not. Yeah,
that's
absolutely
how you do
not.
it.
I mean, I'm sure a lot of them got injured. I'm sure they were like killing horses.
Yes,
I'm sure they killed like 1,000 horses on that movie. You know what I mean? Like it's like you can't fucking do that. Yeah, no.
For Mother
it's
Russia.
Like no way. Yeah, exactly. There's just like no way to fucking do that in a way that's like even approaching like any kind of responsible sort of thing.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, it is very interesting, and there really aren't any, there really aren't that many. I mean, I guess Chernobyl does count. I mean, and Chernobyl is a very good show.
Great show,
and that's kind of a good kind of recent example.
Here we go. Both War and Peace and Waterloo. They're by Sergei Bondarchuk. I think it's the 70s or 80s, so it's much later than these Battleship Potemkin.
Yeah. And of course, that was the era of like Andrei Tarkovsky too, right? So Andrei Tarkovsky is like one of the great film directors of all time. A Russian film director, very much not Soviet though. He was like a devout Christian, all this type of stuff. He dealt with a lot of censorship.
Stalker.
Yeah, he made Stalker and Andrei Rublev and Sacrifice and a lot of these movies. But
go into
not for everybody.
Sci-fi now, but it's
they're certainly not for everybody. They're they will test the attention span of especially younger people, I suspect. But they're just one of a kind fucking movies. Excellent movies.
See, I love weird films like that. With long lingering shots. Big, long, lengthy periods with no dialogue, where it's just like you're looking at weird stuff.
Yeah.
Give me that all day.
Yeah.
Give me that
I know
all
it's
day.
great, especially Stalker. Stalker is just like totally haunting, and I don't even know how they got some of those images in Stalker. It's just like
the book it's based on is incredible as well. Roadside Picnic.
I haven't read Roadside Picnic actually. I have a lot of blind spots when it comes to sci-fi. I love literature, but sci-fi is something that I'm like not. I need to be more conversant in because I know there's some amazing things out there.
Somebody's written Downfall was a great movie, and I've got to agree. Like if I was going to pick another film about the Nazis, I may have picked that because it's another one where, similar to the Death of Stalin, you see the ludicrousness of the Nazi state because you see again how everyone's acting around Hitler, and
exactly. Yeah,
it's a little bit too late in the timeline for the actual sort of like Nazi core group to be there around Hitler because they've already all abandoned it by that point. But there's still some of the. I think Goebbels is still there, and some of his generals are still there, and he can just have a big tantrum.
Stuff,
and he just has tantrums, and
just a fucking huge baby.
To watch. Yeah, exactly. It's quite satisfying.
It is, and a great and a fantastic performance from Bruno Ganz.
Yes, exactly.
As well, who I didn't realize until.
Sorry, you say your.
So
thing.
go ahead. That was important. You go ahead.
Speaking of big babies, this guy here, Laurenti Beria, he is the perpetrator of the Katyn massacre. So someone's written Katyn massacre. I mean, that was the thing where the Soviets went into Poland in 1939. They invaded at the same time as Nazi Germany. It was a two-pronged invasion from both sides. And the Soviets, their main aim was to just wipe out Polish identity. They didn't want Poland to exist. So this guy, Laurenti Beria, commits absolutely horrendous crime of killing every person from Polish high society. So all the aristocrats, all the intellectuals, all the university professors. Can you imagine all the doctors, all of these people who had high positions killed, murdered in the woods? And as far as the Polish people were concerned, they just disappeared. The Russians never admitted to doing this. They never admitted to doing this. And it was only, you know,
it's chilling.
Years later that the truth came out. And the Allies, it's very sad, you know, the Allies had a part to play in this, because they were happy to brush it under the carpet and just ignore that it had happened. And the Polish home government in exile were not very happy, as you can imagine. You know, the surviving aristocrats, and there weren't many of Poland. And it made it perfectly easy after the war for the Russians to just get back into Poland and take over the place.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, and then Beria in this film is just he's a very scary figure in this
terrifying
film, and especially for a comedy, just like a truly frightening like character.
Serial rapist. You know, he's a guy, and you know, with this guy, you can see what unfettered power can do. Like, he's clearly gone into this for the power. He enjoys the power, but when he gets unfettered power, he can do literally whatever he wants, and he does. And this sort of thing happens over and over again. And, you know, it's not just the dictators in a dictatorship who are doing the evil things. It's the people who are in these positions of power, completely untouchable. Yeah. So that's big time. On that note, we can move on to the next film.
Yeah, let's do it. So Death of Stalin. So my next film is actually not a film at all. It's a television show. I, Claudius. Have you seen I, Claudius, Pete?
Yes, it's fantastic. I haven't seen it for a long time. And you know what? I think I actually listened to the audio play as well.
You know, I think it is worth a rewatch, especially post if you haven't seen it like since you were a kid or since like watching like Game of Thrones. I think it's a very interesting to rewatch now in a post Game of Thrones world, because it is so obviously such a huge inspiration for George R. R. Martin's books.
Game of Thrones. I've heard George Martin talk about this actually as an inspiration. He was certainly inspired. I mean, there we go. That's Peter Baelish.
Yeah, exactly. But it is just such an excellent TV show. And I mean, talk about performance, like driving a story. You know what I mean? It's a very cheap show. It's a very simple show. It's just actors and a couple of basic like palace sets. You know, not that much different from you know, like a Shakespeare play or something like that. But the performances are incredible. The writing is like outstanding, and the blocking is also really incredible. The way that the camera moves, the way that so many of the scenes are kind of filmed in like one take or in these very long kind of takes that then sort of move across the room. The camera is very much in tune with the blocking of the scene, and it's just a very fluid and dynamic show in terms of kind of like where the actors are placed, the sort of picture that they're showing you, and how the camera kind of interacts with that. And Derek Jacobi in one of his great roles as the Emperor Claudius, you know, obviously kind of in sort of this version. I'm sure that there's lots of disagreement about this. I know this is sort of based on some accounts by Roman historians who have been like, doubt has been put on their accounts, right? I mean, there's only a handful of them, and like they were all biased, you know. And so it's like hard to say how much of this shit like actually happened, but it is like pretty close to a lot of the sort of Roman historians and the accounts that we have of the Julio Claudian. So like famously, obviously, he's Claudius starts as this like, he's kind of a joke. He's got a stutter. He's this like weakling. Nobody takes him seriously. And then he's just kind of this like soft-spoken intellectual guy. Again, very much kind of shades of like Tyrion Lannister in there. You know what I mean? Kind of this like, kind of the one good member of the shitty family. Even though Tyrion Lannister is like not a good guy at the end of the day, but you know, he's sort of he's this like the one relatable one. You know, who's kind of like this again soft-spoken intellectual, but then he's kind of swept up into power and like swept up into sort of the great events of the empire. Brian Blessed as Augustus, incredible performance.
Oh yes.
I'm not sure who plays Livia, but she's like an amazing. She's just like such a fucking snake. It's just like so scheming and like so like such an evil genius of a character. John Hurt plays Caligula, I believe. And he's just like such a fucking psycho. It's great. It's great.
Yeah, there's so many psychos at that period of Roman history. It's one of those super interesting times where there's just so many strong characters in the, as you say, fallible historical sources that we have.
Yeah, it's like hard to say, right? But
it's hard to say. It's hard to say. I mean, because for example, Caligula, his enemies wrote about him.
It's like he might have been normal. He might have been like a completely normal guy.
I mean, he might have been insane, but maybe not anywhere. And he might have. Everybody might have been doing the sort of shit that he did. They're all crazy Roman rich people getting involved in like insane brothels, orgies, doing whatever they want with slaves and shit. It's probably a horrible, horrible thing to see. Some of the stuff that was going on.
Yeah.
I just get the impression that a lot of people were doing it. It wasn't just Caligula, but
yes, you might be right.
A lot of weird shit was happening.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
Particularly because I mean, you could do whatever you wanted with a slave. Like, there's no.
Oh my God! Yeah.
You could do what the hell you want. So I mean, this is Laurenti Beria times 10. I would always think. With Romans. I mean, think of a Roman serial killer. They wouldn't even register them as a serial killer because it wasn't even a crime.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
If you're killing slaves, it's not even a flipping crime. It's horrendous.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like it's like throwing out an old couch or something. Yeah. It's just
yeah. So it's just insane time period.
Yeah, no, very insane time period, and really, it's like has never really been brought to life. Certainly not on television. I think better than this. I mean, I think I have a lot of affection for Rome, HBO's Rome. A lot of that I think is sort of is because of sort of the time it came out and sort of the age in which I saw it, and I was just like, oh my fucking God! It's like the first HBO show I ever got like really invested in. As as I was like a middle schooler, and it was just like it blew my mind.
Same.
I have a lot of affection for that show to this day, but in particular the sort of the sets and the production design, like they built a lot of these great sets at Cinecittà in studios in Italy, and quite an accurate kind of take on late Republic Rome in terms of sort of the sets and the cities and the costumes and kind of the daily life kind of aspects of it. So it really kind of pops in a way, in that sort of high budget HBO sheen. But I mean, Claudius really in terms of like the characters and the dialogue. It's also quite a cynical show.
Yes.
Like it's got quite a poor view of humanity generally.
Like Game of Thrones.
Yeah, like Game of Thrones. It's like quite pessimistic. So I think that's in that sense it like feels very, and certainly with British TV, I mean, you had like the original House of Cards, which was just like incredibly bleak. The American House of Cards, like it pretends to be bleak. You know what I mean?
It's not
as
bleak as the British one. Yeah.
No, it thinks that it's like cool and punk rock, but it's like not. But the British one is like properly disgusting.
He's so evil.
He's so evil. Yeah, he's so evil, and similar with this, they're just like they're just irredeemable, these characters. But there's just like something very like, I don't know, just like, again, riveting about that, and just completely you can't look away. Definitely. It's just like,
well, it's just it's warts and all. It doesn't shy away from the just horrendousness of the human condition.
Exactly.
In situations where humans are given ultimate power, and also the potential of ultimate power. Horrendous things happen.
Yeah,
the good thing about Rome, the TV show, because same as me, I was obsessed with it too. It's funny as well. Rome is funny. It is very funny. The Lucius Vorenus and Titus Pullo, their interactions hilarious.
Oh, it's Abbott and Costello. It's a comedy duo.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. They're getting pissed in Alexandria towards the end of the show, and they start talking about like whether there is life after death and things like this. And Lucius Vorenus is like, basically, he doesn't say that's like nonsense Quaker talk. He's like, that's nonsense Greek talk.
Yeah.
It's great.
And I love the like expletives and too. It's just like, I hope you suck Pluto's thorny cock. It's just
Yeah,
very like so
yeah.
colorful
Yes, yes.
and the yeah, and it's just like there's that great line when they're like ride up to the city and like Pompey has abandoned the city or whatever, and Varenus is just like, they could not, the Senate cannot abandon Rome. If Mars were watching, he would not, stand this disgrace. And Titus Pillow says, well, maybe he was having a crap and missed it. It's like such a fucking great line.
Yeah.
It's like
Absolutely,
just so
absolutely.
vulgar and like
It's so
boyish,
vulgar and just yeah, it is. Yeah,
but
and
so much
there's
fun.
the scene
So much
where
fun.
there's the entire Roman army waiting by the roadside as Mark Antony has sex with
Oh,
with a
yeah.
peasant girl.
Exactly.
They're all just stood there like checking their watches.
Yeah. Exactly. It's like so
Yes.
fucking ridiculous. Yeah. No,
It
great
is.
show. Great show. Yeah.
Great show. Yeah. All right. I'm gonna have to rewatch this.
Oh yeah. I
any
would
final
1000% recommend it. No, I guess not. Let's. What's your final film, or would it be your final film, or would it be?
I've got two more, you know.
You got two more. Okay, we've got two more. What's your second to last film? What's your
We've got
penultimate
time.
film?
We're all good.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, okay. I will do. This is the only one that you haven't seen out of my list.
Okay.
So we'll go back to. I was going to do two Holocaust films. I couldn't do two Holocaust films. That's too many Holocaust films. I'm doing one Holocaust film. This is
the
Escape
Rutger
from
Hauer film?
Sobibor. This is Rutger Hauer.
Okay.
Absolute legend. Love a bit of Rutger Hauer.
Oh yeah.
And in this film, one of the reasons why I like this film, I mean, it's a little herd of event in the Holocaust and World War II, where Jews fought back against the Nazis and won. So they actually managed to escape from this death camp. This is one of the big death camps. You've got Treblinka, Sobibor. What was the other one called? Another one that the name escapes me. These are like pure death camps.
Auschwitz.
So Auschwitz was a concentration camp primarily until it became a death camp.
Okay.
So people were held there for years, sort of thing. This camp, the horrendous thing about this one is people
would just
turn
take
up
you to kill you.
dead. They turn up and they're dead. There's only a very small amount of people who would live on the site, and their entire role was to dispose of the bodies. So Rutger Hauer's character, he is a Russian prisoner of war. Even by the time he arrives in Sobibor, he's been living in hell. So he's been living in open-air camps on the Eastern Front that the Germans would just round up all the Russian prisoners of war, chuck them in a camp, and let them starve to death. So can you imagine, like, how the fuck did he even survive that? Somehow he survives that with his band of soldiers. They've been singled out because they're Jewish, so he's not only a Russian prisoner of war who the Germans hate because they're Russian, the Slavic, who they looked down on. He's also Jewish, so it's even worse for him. So he gets sent to this death camp. He's strong, though, so he's chosen to be in the work crew. And this is a true story, completely true story. The name, what's his name? Alexander Pacheski. True story. And he turns up. He is put to work alongside the other Jews who have been kept in the Sonderkommando, which is like a work group, basically. They're going to get worked and then they're going to be murdered, but they get a little reprieve. They get a few months of life. But the arrival of these Russians, the other Jews, they're like, hang on, these guys are strong. These guys are soldiers. We can do something here. And this injection, this idiotic Nazis decide to put like quite disciplined Russians into this place and let them live. And of course they organise a resistance. They organise an uprising.
Yeah.
So they put this plan into action. Rutger Hauer, this absolute it's funny because Rutger Hauer's look at how ubermensch he is. He's like absolute just king. And also the real Alexander Pacheski was the same as that. He was this absolute action hero. And he does things like refuses to eat just purely to spite the Nazis because he doesn't want to give them the satisfaction of being the boss of him. And there's a great scene where you watch the absolute atrocities committed by the Germans throughout the first hour or whatever, 45 minutes of the film, and then the scene where they start to escape, you're like, fucking yes. And it's like the most rousing thing ever. Great film. I think it's just a
Nice.
TV film, you know.
Yeah. No, it's well, it's got like the 4:3 kind of aspect ratio. So yeah, it looks like a TV
Yeah,
movie. But
yeah.
that's awesome. I'm surprised I haven't heard of this. This looks awesome.
You know, it's not very well known about, but I
Mhm.
love it because it's just you see all the Holocaust films are all just Jews get killed, and then that's kind of it.
Yeah.
And then it's like this is the film where it actually shows the other side, and there were these
Yeah.
instances of defiance. The film Defiance is another one actually, which is in the woods in
Yeah.
Belarus, where it's
Yeah.
about these self-help groups of Jews where they become partisans and they fight back. And it did
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah.
It's just not the narrative that we're often shown.
Sure.
Um,
Totally.
and yes, some people managed to flip and survive. They managed to actually survive
Yeah.
the war. Not many, because even the initial escape from Sobibor, I think something like 100 people got out. In the
Yeah.
days after, they
I'm
rounded
sure a
up
lot of them got killed. Yeah. Exactly.
Polish people giving them up, unfortunately, because they're just terrified, and they know
Yeah.
if they don't give them up, they'll be killed. So a small amount of them do survive.
But
Pachersky,
even
he
but
slips
even
away
just
and he joins the
escaping.
partisans, but so he,
Oh, nice. Yeah.
he manages to just keep fighting throughout the war.
Yeah.
Absolute
Yeah.
superhero.
I
You
mean,
can say
but even
so.
just escaping for that for a short period is a victory in of itself, right? I mean, it's
Even
just
that
like,
is a victory in itself.
even that is a victory, and sort of, and
Yes,
even if you get caught, even if you die, you're like dying on your own terms. You know what I mean?
that's
You're
right.
not just like,
That's right.
dying as this captive. You're sort of
Exactly.
dying as like a warrior and as
100%. And that
totally.
is the mentality of these people who try and escape.
Yeah.
But it's like it's a really interesting film because you see the whole variety of Jewish life at the time, because many of the Jews, I'd say maybe not many, but they're all at roll call. That's where they escape, and some of them just
Yeah.
stay at roll call because they don't want to participate because it's against their religion. So these super devout guys, they wait and die, which is really sad,
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
Because
That is sad.
I mean, the worst bit is the people in the towers. They can't get at the. Mostly they were like Ukrainians and things who were actually the people. They've been press ganged into service by the Germans in order to save their own lives,
Yeah.
and they're the
Yeah.
ones who are manning the machine guns in the towers, and they can't get at the machine guns in the towers, so they're just there, killing everyone that they possibly can. So hundreds and hundreds of people get murdered, but some do
God.
survive, and
Yeah.
it's
That's
an interesting one
incredible.
because there was another escape attempt from Treblinka, which was an even worse death camp where even more people were killed.
Yeah.
And I think it wasn't successful, or it was at least much less successful. And that camp, there are literally no images whatsoever of the camp in existence because the
Wow.
Germans were so successful at just wiping all the evidence, getting rid of, any evidence and any survivors. So
Yeah.
at least Sobibor, there are these accounts, people escaped and they wrote books about it. And they dedicated their lives to, telling the story of what happened there. So at least, because that was the thing, they wanted at least one person to get out so they could tell the story of what had happened.
Yeah.
And there are so many
yeah.
of these camps where no one did.
Yeah, that's absolutely fucking
Devastating,
insane.
man.
Yeah.
Devastating.
It is devastating. It is devastating. Yeah, and it's wild that you kind of mentioned that. I've already forgotten that the guy's name, Rutger Hauer's character.
Pachersky.
Pachersky was
They knew him as Sasha. They knew him as Sasha.
Yeah. So that Pachersky was like refusing to eat and all this sort of stuff, and he still was able to organize a resistance. It's like
Yep.
it's sort of interesting because I was thinking like, I mean, I just made this movie. We just did 2 weeks of straight shooting, which is sort of the biggest block of shooting days that we had. And like, I was just working 16-hour days, eating maybe one meal a day. Like I lost like a lot of weight. Like I lost weight and stuff. And like, it took me like a while to recover. And it's sort of just like, okay, now do that for like a year and then organize an escape attempt from a death camp. You know what I mean? But that's something, but that's something that people in World War II, it was like, yes, he didn't eat for 2 months, but then he like took a sword and fought for 5 days without going to sleep. You know what I mean? Just like the most insane like Superman shit that comes out of World War II.
It's completely bonkers. I
It is
cannot
completely bonkers,
imagine.
The very limits of the extremity of existence,
Exactly.
comes
You
out of
put
the story.
yourselves you put yourselves in his shoes and you think like fucking I freak out after missing one meal, you know.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I get all
yeah,
hangry,
exactly.
you know.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I'm so hungry.
Yeah, it's
Totally.
it's wild.
It's
It's
nuts.
absolutely wild. And then to just go on and carry on fighting for the rest of the war and not running away back to Russia. You know, he just took the
Yeah,
fight all the way through, joined the regular army, went towards
yeah.
Berlin. You know.
Totally. And yeah, what you said about about kind of, how it's like not often the narrative of like these stories of like resistance or whatever. It's like, I don't know. Did you see my video I made last summer? It was called "The Cannibal Slave Ship." It was about sort of the slave trade and stuff.
Oh, it rings a bell. It rings a bell.
Yeah.
I
So
don't know if I
one
did
thing that I
watch it.
was
I
sort of
definitely saw it,
yeah
but I don't.
yeah. But it basically one thing that was sort of that I tried to kind of like really kind of put the forefront of that. It's a horrible story. It's like a horrible story of these slave traders who like ate captives in the 1830s. But one thing that is something that's like you don't really see that often in like films or media, and a lot of popular narratives and stuff about the slave trade is also how like resistance was just like constant. Is that it was just like people like Africans who were enslaved by Europeans. Every single step of the way, they were kicking and screaming and
Yes.
fighting and
Yes.
resisting. It was just
Yes.
they fought the slave catchers. They revolted in the slave forts. They revolted on the ships. They escaped and revolted when they got there. They like made alliances with indigenous people. They like fucking formed huge communities out in the fucking swamps near where I am, and like
Yep.
practically laid siege to the city of New Orleans. Like it was like this constant thing. Obviously, going right up into the American Civil War, when it was just like, oh, we're gonna fucking enlist in the Union Army, and that in of itself, as I've argued on my channel, was a kind of a slave revolt. It was sort of
Yeah. Yeah.
like
Definitely. Definitely.
was sort of these enslaved people basically pushing for this outcome, which was the Union fucking invading the South and overthrowing
Yep.
slavery. That was not a foregone conclusion that would happen. And
Totally
the
agree. Totally
advocacy
agree.
of both free black and enslaved people was like instrumental in not only making that happen, but winning that war. So yeah, it's like it's something that it's that kind of um, it's such an important kind of thing to kind of like emphasize, right?
Absolutely.
Because so often it can just turn into just kind of this doom and gloom kind of
Yep.
torture
Yep.
porn
Yep.
of like, oh,
And
we're
it's the
gonna
same.
all yeah
Same with the Holocaust. Same with the Holocaust.
yeah
People were fighting the
yeah
whole time, and just to
yeah
imagine how terrifying that resistance would have been as well, because you know
yeah
what's going to happen to you. If
yeah
chances
yeah
are
and your
if
family
you,
too,
yeah,
like, and
your family
everybody you
too,
love.
everyone you love, and you probably get to watch it happen to them, and then it happens to you. This sort
Yeah,
of thing. It's like the worst imaginable thing, because they're not going to kill you; they're going to torture you,
yeah,
and to be able to still rise up, it is superhuman.
yeah,
It's
totally.
the pure very limits of human endurance.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
nuts.
Here's the
Well,
nice scene of them
speaking of
escaping here, and there we
speaking,
go. They break down the
that
walls.
is oh nice, hell yeah.
There we go.
Well, speaking of the pure limits of human endurance, my next film is 4 hours long, but I promise it doesn't feel like it. It's also a hot take as far as best historical movies, but I'm going to stand by it and I'm going to explain why. But Gone with the Wind is my last film, and I think a pretty much, especially since I've sort of rewatched it a few times as an adult, I think like pretty objectively one of the great historical fiction films of all time. That said, it is famously quite historically inaccurate in very important ways. Um, but it's sort of several years ago. At this point, I was going to say a few years ago, but it's like 6 years ago. I made a movie, or I made a videos about there was like the best Civil War movie from the Southern perspective was the name of my video. And I talked about one of my great favorite westerns, The Outlaw Josie Wales, and how I think it really represented kind of the Confederate point of view in the Civil War quite well. I was wrong. Gone with the Wind is very obviously not only one of the greatest historical fiction films, it is like far and away, objectively, no contest, the best movie ever made about the Civil War. Um, And it's interesting because in a lot of conversations about Civil War movies, usually the sort of it's never discussed. If I'm being charitable, it's because Gone with the Wind is racist, and people see that as a count against it, which it is. But I don't actually think that's the case, Pete. I think the case is that people choose war movies like Gettysburg and Glory because the people having these conversations are men.
Oh yeah.
And
Yes,
Gone with the
yes.
Wind, even at the time, in Margaret Mitchell's book, Gone with the Wind was very much seen as like the sort of like chick lit. And Clark Gable, famously, this is his like most famous role, his best performance. But like at the time, he was just like, "Isn't that a fucking like woman's movie?" You know what I mean? Like this is very much like a female-centered film. It's very much like a girl movie.
Little Women is an absolute banger of like story.
Oh my God, yeah,
You know.
yeah. No, I mean, it's again, that's not very much not a count against it. I think,
Yeah.
and I think it's Gone with the Wind's, and I do want to talk about Gone with the Wind's portrayal of femininity, and which is
You're
very
very
interesting.
right though. What you're saying is very right because like everything is very male centric.
Yeah.
Just in general, I think like things that are male dominated do tend to like
For sure.
They're just bit like I don't know. They're more popular. Yeah.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, I think certainly in kind of the circles that we run in a lot of the
Yeah.
time, kind of, but yeah. So I think and so I mean, Gone with the Wind is like, and it's also hard to kind of imagine like how big of a deal this was when it came out. Like you sort of like you look at this movie, and I mean, and I would recommend sort of if have you seen this movie, Pete?
No.
So this is
I'm not seeing it. It's terrible. It's absolutely terrible, isn't
no,
it?
no, it's not terrible. I mean, it's a very old, very racist movie. I don't blame you. It's fine. But this movie is like looks phenomenal, right? This is like the sort of. I mean, this was made in 1939, and it is
Dude, it
just
looks
like
better than Escape from Sobibor for sure, which is like
it's
40 years later.
Bright Technicolor, super colorful. These like blazing red sunsets. These, I mean, just these gigantic sets. This like, I mean, look at this fucking shot. Look at this fucking shot. The sunset shot. These super exaggerated sun shots with these like rear projections and this red lighting. It is just such a feast for the eyes. Vivian Leigh. Oh my God, she's so fucking hot in this fucking movie. I'm unreasonably attracted to her. But like, but like, it's these like wild costumes. Again, not strictly accurate, but they just like look fucking awesome. They're just like so well put together. And just seeing this on the big screen, and again during the Great Depression, or like we're kind of like coming out of the Great Depression. A lot of people who saw this would never have seen like a color film before. You know what I mean? Or maybe they'd seen like one or two, and just to like have this huge experience, this 4-hour like epic, this like very distinctly American epic. Especially coming out at a time, sort of cusp of World War II, coming out of the Great Depression, when like America is just like becoming the great world power, and here's like the great American art form, and here's like the great American story. You know what I mean? It's like it's just such a confluence of sort of periods of sort of events in our history. And it's just fucking outstanding. Like cinematically, it is like completely flawless. It is so impeccable. It is so fucking well done. However, Gone with the Wind is like very famously racist. It is very famously pro-Confederate, very much unabashedly so. There's a number of characters of enslaved people who are basically little more than racial stereotypes. There's one very interesting relationship between Scarlett O'Hara, Vivian Leigh's character, the main character, and Hattie McDaniel's character. She won an Oscar for this. Hattie McDaniel plays Mammy, is the character's nickname. She's basically like the kind of wet nurse, kind of whatever, like the nurse to the Juliet, kind of.
But is she
helped
an
raise the
enslaved
daughter.
person?
Yeah, she's an enslaved person.
I think I've seen that in things like Family Guy and The Simpsons and things.
Yeah, yeah, and Hattie McDaniel won an Oscar for this role, and like couldn't sit with her castmates
Oh, nice.
at the fucking ceremony. You know what I mean? Because it was the fucking 1939. So like it's already, it's like this very sort of like, it's this like incredibly soulful performance that this woman gave, and like Yeah, just the contradictions are already, and people loved it, but at the same time, it was just like she was like very clearly regarded as like subhuman. But very interesting relationship between Mammy and Scarlett in this movie that is like actually like a pretty good portrayal, or like in if it were directed by I don't know, Ryan Coogler or something, this would be like a very like pretty good portrayal of like of sort of how of like the sort of love, the very fucked up and manipulative love, but like as they felt it in the moment, the love between like an enslaver and an enslaved person who like knew each other their entire lives, and the relationship that would like develop between these people. It's just that the way that they're sort of interacting is like it's not intended by the filmmakers, but you can kind of look at it and read between the lines and sort of look at the sort of power dynamics in play. And it's actually very interesting, right? Because these are both very well-rounded characters that feel very real. And in a way where it's like a lot of like movies that maybe were like focusing on that specifically, like don't do quite as well because just the characters aren't as well drawn. You know what I mean? So that's very interesting. There's a lot of this movie takes place during Reconstruction. There's a number of misconceptions about Reconstruction, namely that like the whole sort of myth of like the carpetbagger and stuff like that, of these like Northerners who kind of came down and wanted to destroy the Southern way of life and stuff like that. A lot of that is economic anxiety, right? I mean, Northern capital invested very heavily in Southern industry, really got Southern industry like going after the Civil War, coal mining, textile manufacturing, all this kind of stuff. So like a lot of Northern money was coming into the South at that time. But actually, I think I would argue, and I think most of the foremost historians of Reconstruction would argue that basically, that sort of white Northerners were like probably way softer on white Southerners than maybe they could have and should have been at this time. But yeah, this very much kind of plays into that. There's a scene where this white guy and this black guy are like in a carriage, and the black guy's singing "Marching Through Georgia," which is like the sort of Union song about burning Georgia down to the ground. And they're like going past these like poor rebel soldiers who are just like hobbling along and wounded, and they're just like, "Get out of the way, rebel! Get out of the way!" And they're just being such assholes. And of course, the movie kind of wants you to think, "Oh my God, they're so horrible." But I watched it, I'm just like, "Yes, get out of the fucking way, you fucking assholes." But of course, I think it's hilarious, But so all that said, right? Sorry, go ahead.
You were like the Northerners could have been softer, could have been harder. Sorry, but if they were harder, you could have had a second civil war only 20 years later. Because the end of the First World War, everyone was super hard on Germany, and in the long run, it was a terrible decision.
That's true. Well, I think that would be pretty unlikely. I don't think that because like it's not like the South would have been able to like rearm. You know what I mean? It's just true. You guys had you didn't just go soft. You literally, was it Abe Lincoln? Someone put somebody from the South into government like immediately. Oh yeah, well I mean and Andrew Johnson was a Southerner. He was he was a Democrat, but he was Lincoln's vice president. Yeah. But no, I mean it was Reconstruction was basically just an unfinished like the good aspects of Reconstruction were just abandoned, like the sort of racial equity and like getting black people in government and positions of power and stuff. That stuff was just abandoned. It was just like not convenient for anybody and was not making anybody any money. So they were just like, let's just stop this.
Yes.
So Gone with the Wind is an amazing movie. And however, it is extremely racist. One thing, though, that it is, I think, very like that makes it very complicated, and its legacy very complicated, is that this is like sort of the quintessential like grandma movie, or I guess if you're a certain generation, like mom movie. A lot of women watched this and like saw themselves in Scarlett O'Hara, and had a very intense sort of emotional kind of connection to like her journey in this and her story. And it's not unreasonable, because I think this movie's portrayal of femininity is like very complex and frankly like kind of woke, like just like very like it's just like an excellent Scarlett O'Hara is a very strong, excellent female character, and like an amazing protagonist. And she's somebody kind of just basic kind of plot of the movie is that she sort of starts off, she's the daughter of this plantation owner. She starts off with this immense privilege the Civil War comes through, everything gets burned to the ground, and then she's basically poor in Reconstruction. She's poor, and she has to kind of claw her way back up to the top, right? And you sort of think about the context in which this movie was made, right? Right after the Great Depression, right? This was people going into the theater and watching this, people who had undergone a very similar thing in their lives, who in the 1920s had a lot of plenty and had enjoyed a really high quality of life. And then all of a sudden the stock market crashes and people are in breadlines. People can't find work. People are starving, right? People have to make very hard decisions to just survive, and so people are sort of going into the theater and they're seeing their own story in Scarlett, and the way she kind of like manipulates men and stuff is like very funny. That's like that she's like she's in love with Ashley, who's this like Confederate guy who's like this very like do-gooder dude, but and to like spite him, she like marries this other guy, Charles Hamilton, and then like to like basically make money in Reconstruction, she like manipulates and marries this other guy who is like the only like former Confederate who's like made any money after the war, so she like uses his money to, what I mean, so she's just like a total fighter, and so I think that's like, she's wheeling and dealing. She's a hustler. She's a fighter. And I think that's like something that's very like, I think relatable to a lot of women as well, particularly like, again, in this time period, but I think universally to like many women of this sort of idea that it's just like, you're not born with advantages. You're seen as a second-class citizen, and you really can't fend for yourself in a lot of ways in a patriarchal society.
Passive. So like, you can be active.
Yeah, exactly. So like, you've got to get creative to be able to like, get what you want and succeed in life. So yeah, just such a fascinating movie in that sense, that it has such like an interesting, nuanced, complex, and like, I think very empowering sort of feminine take, but I think that's the sort of like or feminine perspective, but I think that's also like sort of the classic white feminism thing, right? Which is just like female empowerment to the exclusion of like Black women and people of color, and like not being kind of intersectional with with everybody else. And it is very much a white feminist movie in that it is like, it has, this very, very interesting female perspective, but just shockingly racist toward Black people. And so just like really, really fucking bad news. But I just highly, especially, I know a lot of my audience is very into the Civil War. If you just have given this a miss, or you haven't seen it since you were a kid, give it another chance. It's on HBO Max. I promise you will get a lot out of it. I can't say that you will be like, happy the entire time you're watching it, because there's a lot about this movie that's infuriating, but that's kind of, honestly, that's sort of what the best movies sort of are, which is that they're like complex. And, I almost think a mediocre movie is more interesting to watch than like an excellent movie, because it's like, there's more to talk about, there's more to digest.
When we get onto my last one, it's also very infuriating, actually, a very infuriating film. But it's one of my favorite films, but it's super infuriating. I was just going to briefly say, I mean, this is a racist film. It's the 1930s. Pretty much most films are racist. Like, I mean, not all films, but is it of its time, or is it like excessively bad?
That's a great question. I mean, I think when we kind of say of its time, I think there's kind of an implicit, like I think you also need to consider who's the storyteller, right? Is that there's is that obviously like Black people protested this movie when it came out, right? Like Black Americans were like understood this for what it was. There were certainly people who like knew, what was going on, who like knew what was up. But of course, only really, not exclusively, but like almost exclusively, it was the white people making the movies. So like in that sense, yes, it is of its time, but obviously you've got to look at like whose hand is at the tiller, and is that sort of, is that representative of the population as a whole? And like often not. But I think that, I mean, certainly this is coming out when like the lost cause myth was quite prevalent in society. So I think in that sense it is of its time, but I do think that it's like very bad because it is one of the greatest movies ever made, and because it was so influential, and because it became, like, again, every mom and every grandma's favorite movie.
Yes.
And
Very influential.
And so it really internalized this narrative in millions of people, and like kept it alive for a long time. So in that sense, I'm not inclined to be charitable in terms of the racial politics, but I do think that again, just because it is just an excellent film, this movie will always, like, keep me coming back to it, I think, because there's just so much about it that is just so amazing.
It's one of those, I think everyone's heard of it. It's one of those films where it's just everybody, even if they haven't necessarily seen it, everyone's heard of it.
Yeah, totally.
All right. So speaking of problematic,
oh my god, I love this movie so much.
Can't even spell it. There we go. Mel Gibson.
I love this movie.
Anti-Semite, probably racist, legitimately insane. Denies evolution.
Did you see the Joe Rogan?
Well, I didn't see it, but I've seen clips from it where he's like, evolution? Nah.
He's like, nah, I don't think that's real.
Yeah.
Shut the fuck up.
And he's also sort of like,
shut the fuck up.
He's got this crazy, it's like he's got this fire inside him. I don't know, he looks crazy. He looks like his South Park depiction, like he really does. He just looks wild.
I think he might have some, like, pretty severe undiagnosed bipolar disorder. I think that's
for sure.
I think that's probably what's going on with him.
But he makes a damn good movie.
Oh my god, son of a bitch, no story structure.
Damn good movie. Braveheart, The Patriot, We Were Soldiers, Apocalypto. So out of all of his films, my favourite is Apocalypto. And it's got its problems. It's got many, many problems. The timeline is just all over the place. For some reason, it's the height of classic Maya civilization, which is like 800 AD. But it's also 1500 AD because it's the Spaniards turn up at the end. Here is Jaguar Paw. Jaguar Paw is a member of one Maya village. They live in the forest. They're at one with nature. He is captured alongside the rest of his people, and they're taken by
his hunting party or whatever.
His hunting party. They're taken by this group of Maya, and it's sort of they're taken to the big city. They're taken to the big city. It's this sort of urban versus forest thing going on. And these guys are mean. These guys are very mean. But of course, there were lots of Maya warriors who were mean, who did take sacrificial victims. So, and they're taken to the big city, and then it's kind of, from that point, it's a chase. So Jaguar Paw escapes, and then the Maya warriors go and try and catch him, and he goes back to the forest, and then he's able to turn it on the baddies, and he starts chasing them. But for all of its faults, it's so good to watch. Like, it's such a feast for the eyes. As someone who absolutely loves the pre-Columbian Americas, to see a city like this in full flourishing, even if it is weirdly it's like 800 years out of time. I love it, man. I love it. I love that you see all the reds on the buildings, which is very, as far as we're aware, historically accurate. You see, I don't know if I'll be able to show it on here, but there are. Oh, here we go. There are murals. There we go. I mean, these are straight out of, this is like the Bonham Pack murals in what is now Chiapas in Mexico. Yeah. And you see these covering all the internal bits of the buildings. These beautiful frescoes. You see the different levels of Maya society. There are the slaves at the bottom who are just covered in lime from the stone that they are quarrying and then putting onto the buildings. Just living quite a horrible existence, really, as urban society often is for the people on the lowest rungs. Then you have, it goes all the way up to the warrior class, and then up at the top you have the aristocrats who are always running things throughout human society, and they wear these, the pageantry, like the crazy masks and everything, and to see it all. And and it's also, the whole film is in Maya.
Yeah.
I'm not sure which dialect of Maya it's in, but I know it's in what, because there are a few different dialects that survive today. Because contrary to what a lot of people think, the Mayans didn't all die out. There wasn't a Maya apocalypse in the past. They do still exist.
Tons of
and there's
Maya,
still millions of them in Mexico, Guatemala, El Salvador, Honduras, I think, as well. And it's all indigenous actors in the film. I don't think they're all Maya. They're all sort of like, they're Hollywood people, so they'll all be Americans.
A lot of them are Hollywood. Like Raul Trujillo, I think he's like Comanche. He plays the main bad guy. I'm pretty sure he's Comanche. So yeah, he's
so good in this film. He's so good in this film. So it's so scary.
And then the guy, so the like Middle Eye, I think his name is, the characters, or Middle Paw or something. The dude not in focus right now, but sort of like the really creepy guy is like the psycho who like throws the guys off the cliffs. He's he's a Mexican actor. He died recently, unfortunately, like last month or something. Yeah, no, he was like not that old. But he has great performance in this. I love the scene where where they're like just captured Jaguar Paws like villagers, and one of them has a wound, and he like collapses, and he's like and he's just like just panting or whatever, and that character Middle Eye comes up to him, and he's like looking at him all concerned. He like gets he like gets his water bottle out, and he's like uncorking it, and then he just takes a drink himself. It's like you think that he's gonna give him water, but he just like doesn't do anything. He just starts poking his wound. It's just such a psycho. It's great.
Such a bastard.
But no, I mean I love this movie.
Calls Jaguar Paw almost. I like that. He's like almost. Almost escaped. But I think I like a film where it's got I think I probably like quite a simple film. It's a little bit like Escape from Sobibor in a way, because there's this setup of these horrible things happening, and then there's like a release when the good guy escapes, and then things start to turn on the bad guys. Quite a simplistic tale, I suppose, this one, but.
Well, I mean, I think what I like about it is that
to me,
it feels very authentic.
It's authentic.
Even though it's not, it feels history coming alive. I mean, I made a video a long time about authenticity in historical films, and I very much called out Apocalypto specifically, and it was just like, it might not be accurate, but it's authentic. It's authentic, and you really feel like you're being thrown back in time in this one. And I mean,
I see a lot of criticism of this film. Maybe I saw your criticism of it, but I see a lot of criticism, and I do think sometimes it's a little bit undue, because you maybe don't see the same level of criticism as you do for Braveheart, because I think Braveheart was like universally critically acclaimed, but that's just as nonsensical. William Wallace was a educated knight who spoke French. He wasn't a woad-covered Celtic warrior.
He wasn't a Jacobite, kilt, plaid-covered Jacobite. You know what I mean?
That's right.
No, it's and I think the simplisticness of Apocalypto is what I like about it. What I like is that you don't have to watch it with subtitles to know exactly what's going on.
Exactly.
Like you could. Yes. You could turn the subtitles off, just be listening to the Maya, and there would just be you would not be confused for one solitary second.
No.
That's what I think I really love about it, is that it's visual. It's just purely visual, it's extremely cinematic. And I mean, that's something.
For the eyes, yeah,
and that's something that I forget who said it, but my producer Veronica repeated this. She was quoting somebody else, but a great point about movies is that cinema has never really graduated beyond being like a filmed radio play. Is that it's like actors doing dialogue, and you're just like you're filming that from various angles. But movies like Apocalypto, I think, really like just maybe not kind of show the potential, but like are kind of in a different vein, and show kind of what cinema can kind of be as just a more visual medium, as just something that's like not completely really different. About dialogue. It's not really about like character. It's not theater. It's like you couldn't make a play of this. Like this is something that could only
case in point, like just
exist on film.
This tiny little snippet here. I mean, because you're in the camp, it becomes morning, and then you just see that. You just see somebody run past with a little flame, and you're like, oh, and the music goes, and you're like, oh shit, something's happening. And then the whole everything that plays out afterwards, you don't need dialogue. as you say, because
Yeah.
I mean, you know what's going to
Yeah,
happen, really,
sure.
because it's just it's a
Precisely.
bit predictable, I suppose, the film, but it's I don't know. Yeah, Mel Gibson, he makes a simple film, but he makes a damn good film. What else can I say
For sure.
about this?
Well, I think, and then speaking of, Battle of Algiers, this is another movie that a lot of use of non-actors.
Yes.
Like I remember listening to the audio commentary of this back in the day, and Mel Gibson talked about like the guy who plays the king on the pyramid scene. He was just like some guy like that they found in a bar.
Yeah.
It was just
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
he literally Mel Gibson
Yeah.
like told the casting director just like go to like the bars and find me a king. And just like, you know what I mean? And just like, oh, he's got a nice face. Yeah, grab him, And you can really tell that like these are not, and it just adds to the authenticity. There's some great performances that he was able to get out of these people. But and yeah, again, like the main roles are like Hollywood people or like Mexican talent, but like the people who have been in like Mexican TV or in plays and stuff. But a lot of the bit parts are just random Maya people that they just like found
Yes.
in these towns when they were shooting at.
Yes.
And yeah, and again, it's sort of that thing I was saying about my buddy Carl. It's that like it's the difference between like craft and raw talent. And
Yes.
raw talent, you can't always like get something. You can't always shape that into something that works. Like it's a risk. You can't like as a director, like that's something that like you need that needs to be like worked on and needs to be crafted. Because like a non-actor is just like, there's like a certain shorthand that if you're working with somebody who's like a trained actor or somebody who knows what they're doing, who have been in movies before, you can be like, okay, like get to your two for me. Like we need to catch focus. Like, let me get you to your two. Like, it's like not where you like start at the beginning of the shot, but like kind of where you end up. So we can just like frame that up. You do that to a non-actor. They're like not going to know what you're talking about. Yeah. They're not going to know like that the camera needs to be in focus. They're not going to know that they're going to need to play the scene to the camera. Like I've worked with non-actors who have been like, okay, this is like your big scene. And they play the entire scene with like their head down. And it's just like, we can't fucking see you, dude. Like they just don't understand. They don't understand. But so it's like it's a risk. But if you can get a non-actor and like shape raw talent into something that like and just guide them to the place you want to get them, then you do kind of get some of the most authentic, unforced performances that you possibly can. And I think this movie is full of them.
I think so too. Do you think that's where the best actors come from, where there's raw talent mixed with learning some skills?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, it's certainly. I think certainly talent and skill, sort of need to combine, and lots of other things I've read, like discipline and also like being a good professional. Like obviously, you always hear lots of horror stories about actors who are like Marlon Brando, who like refuses to put pants on for the fucking scene. It's just like. I don't have fucking time for that shit, as like my people. Yeah. It's like if somebody fucking tried that on my set, they would be on the fucking curb. But yeah, no, I mean certainly that's certainly it. But yeah, no, I mean I think this is an excellent movie and an excellent choice.
I appreciate all of your input on this because you're much better at the analysis of all of it for me. Here we go. This is just a little tiny insight.
Oh my god!
All the skulls in the background. I mean,
that's heads on the
pretty damn accurate. That is what the world of this period looked like. I mean, there's death everywhere. We're very insulated from death today. I mean, that wouldn't have necessarily been that morbid to look at.
That's shocking.
People,
yeah, exactly.
That's what the world is. The world is full of death. We insulate ourselves from it, but people in the pre-modern world did not.
No, not at all.
And yeah, we see that archaeologically there was an obsession with the head and skulls.
Yeah.
And just this whole scene, the whole sacrifice
scene.
Oh
my god, yeah, the whole city scene, yeah.
And it's just something you never see. You never see this on the big screen. So I really enjoyed that Mel Gibson has actually given a voice to these people. Say what you want about Mel Gibson. Weirdly, I've got a little story about Mel Gibson. I was in the Maya city of El Mirador, which is out in the rainforest. You have to take a helicopter to get there. It's absolutely insane.
Oh wow!
And in Guatemala, and went out there to this place, going around chatting to the people, the archaeologists on site, and apparently Mel Gibson had invested $1 million of his own money into this archaeological site to help out with the preservation. And I was just like, oh, that's crazy. You don't normally hear this sort of thing about Mel Gibson. But I mean, the man is ludicrously rich, like insanely rich. Didn't he self-fund The Passion of the Christ and then made like hundreds of millions of dollars from it.
Oh yeah.
So
Yeah.
he can be wacky with his money, but it was apparently at the same time, around about the same time as he made this film, he invested a load of money into Guatemala and Mexico heritage, which pretty
That's
nice.
Great.
Pretty
That's
good
very
of
nice.
Mel.
Very nice. Yeah.
That was when he was
and I
having a
know
good
he's
day.
very.
He was having a manic day.
Well, I know he's very he's a bit of a, I don't know what sort of the equivalent of like an Anglophile for Central America would be, but he's like kind of a Central America file. Like I think also that it appeals to him that they have a very strong Catholic tradition, because obviously his like religious beliefs are very important to him. So like I think that's like a big part of it.
Yes.
It's a big draw, but I mean, I think I think to kind of sing his praises a little bit, I don't think he's racist toward Hispanic people.
No, it's just Jewish people. I think from his tirades that he's said.
Yeah, Jewish people and black people, and there's a few, but
I think he's one of these people who he doesn't. I don't know. He's got an idea that he's been screwed over by a lawyer at some point. Therefore, he's decided that all Jewish people are evil or something.
Who's to say?
Like Kanye West, I think it's a Kanye Westism in a way.
Yeah. But no, he's he's definitely, I think. I mean, it's hard to even say that Mel Gibson is like particularly malevolent. I think a lot of his ideas are extremely toxic and bigoted, and just his whole like you said, anti-evolution traditionalist Catholicism thing is just fucking stupid and hateful.
It's stupid,
just fucking stupid. So. But but I think at the very least, he's not like fucking Russell Brand and has a podcast,
Yes.
And I think
but he clearly is. I mean, this is not an anti-Maya film. It's not an anti Native American film. It's I
have seen that argued.
I think to these people, but
I agree. I've seen that argued, but I don't. I don't find it terribly convincing.
For me, he's not. He's not showing it to be excessively cruel. I don't think anyway. I think he is showing the past as it probably was. Like there probably were situations like this that happened. Jaguar paw. There will be many jaguar paws throughout history. As there were in all different regions of the globe. Because I always stress this fact: we're all the same. You go back far enough, we're all the same. This could be Neolithic Europe. This could be. This could be anywhere in the world.
Could be WWE. I mean, shit. Could be American football. Exactly. I mean, that's the thing. Is that also I think there's I think Gibson was trying to say something about like the decline of empire and this sort of Bush era.
He is
type of like angst. That is and kind of the bread and circuses. It's like it's this sort of I think there's very much this sort of commentary about. Like with the sacrifice thing in particular, that there's this sort of like this bread and circuses, this opulence of this like decaying empire, and these like bloodthirsty spectators, and I think he sees that as sort of comparable to like America's like spiritually vacant.
Yeah, I think I think that's what he's getting at. Yeah,
sort of. Yeah, like declining empire type of thing, and I think that's interesting, right? And that also isn't necessarily what you would expect from somebody who
it
has
isn't
like
necessarily what you expect. It's an interesting point. Yeah.
So I think it's an interesting way that he sort of is connecting these sort of albeit very fictionalized events with the modern day. That sort of it's that you have there's sort of this pervasive idea, and that's why I think it is important that the Spanish show up at the end. That it's like this is not going to last, right? This is like an empire that is going to collapse like tomorrow.
That's right.
And just sort of being taken through all this with that knowledge is like a very important way of how this movie hits like as hard as it does.
It's a good point what you just said because it's like yes, it's historically inaccurate for the Spanish to turn up because it's clearly a classic Maya city. Yeah. It just works though. It makes the movie work. Yeah. You kind of need that full circle thing where it's like, all of everything that's happened in the film, it kind of makes it all a little bit like irrelevant because you're like, not irrelevant, but a bit sort of you're frivolous. You're like, oh fuck, it was all for nothing. Because they
exactly.
Jaguar Paw's being chased by the two guys. They go out onto the beach and then all of them are the same as far as the Spaniards are concerned.
Exactly.
You know, prior to that point, they've been fighting each other. They've been two different factions, you know. But as far as the Spaniards are concerned, they're all the same people
Totally.
on this new continent.
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah, and you know, this scene, all the bread and circuses, all this stuff. It could be Rome, couldn't it? You know, this could be.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
This is the Colosseum right here. You know, it's the spectacle. It's the blood sports. It's the elite trying to just basically placate everybody to take you know, attention away from their decline, basically.
Yeah. Well, they it's the I mean, there's that scene as well, like the eclipse thing, where it's like where Jaguar Paw's about to get sacrificed, and then the eclipse comes, and then you see like the priest like look at the king, and they like share this look of like, okay, yeah, let's use this. It's
exactly,
like this,
exactly.
You know what I mean? It's just like, this is a nice opportunity.
100%,
and then the priest gets 100%. On. It's just like, God is satisfied. You know, it's like it's this very cynical, conscious thing that they're doing.
Yes, it's like a nudge, again, wink.
Yeah, it's like, again, think about like weapons of mass destruction. Think of the Iraq War. You know what I mean? Think of like the context in which this movie was made. It's like it's very much, I think, about Bush. Like
it's political theater. It's political theater.
Exactly.
It's these machinations and smoke and mirrors.
Yeah, precisely. Very interesting flick. Very interesting.
Which is interesting because, you know, there is an idea that there was an esoteric knowledge that the Maya priests had, these calendar priests, because they did have access to these calendars that not everybody had. So they probably did know when there would be certain celestial events that they could use. You know, so it's interesting. It's an interesting point. Yeah.
No, my buddy Justin Sledge, over at the Esoterica channel, has a few things about like Maya videos about Maya magic and like esotericism and stuff. It's super interesting.
It's fascinating, man. Absolutely fascinating.
Well, Pete, look, dude, it's 5:40 in the morning here, and
you've got to go.
It's past my bedtime, dude. But so I'm gonna hop off. But I am crazy. But it's all right. I don't have a real job. What do I have to wake up for?
Did you say your film is finished? Have you the new one?
It's not quite finished. We finished principal photography, which basically means like the main block of shooting. But we've got like pickup days. We've got a pickup day next week that we're doing. But I'm not like that busy, so it's like fine if I fucking sleep till 2 p.m. It's not going to be a big deal.
You've earned a crazy 6 a.m. bedtime.
I think I have, but yeah, Pete, it was an absolute pleasure talking to you. I really appreciate you having me on and just shooting the shit.
Man, I've really enjoyed it. We'll have to be honest, I quite like the idea of having a chaotic live stream with about 6 different people on at some point. So I may invite you on again for like a big debate on a big historical topic. So
absolutely,
that'll be fun.
Yeah. And you know, if you ever go stateside or come to New Orleans, let me know.
Oh, do you know what? I was in New Orleans a couple of years ago. I should have.
Oh, really?
I should have got in touch. We only had, I think, 2 nights in New Orleans. I loved the place. It's incredible. I'd love to come back.
Oh, it's a great spot.
Beautiful city. Absolutely. The food. Oh my God, the food.
Oh my God. Yeah, it's incredible. It's
so
incredible.
good.
The culture, the
good.
people.
Yeah.
It's one of the great cities of the world for sure.
I can see why you drink, because it's like a constant party. It's like being at a music festival, but every night. Every bar has different music. Amazing. Like jazz in one, like rock in another one, blues in another. So good, man. But anyway, I'll let you go to bed. All right, everybody watch The Sudbury Devil, great film, and everybody check out The Vampires of New Orleans.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. It's going to be even better than the last
All right,
one.
everybody. Good night.
All right,
for now.
Pete, thank you so much.